What if the Emperor of mankind arrived in the boys? He feels a new world press at the edge of his mind, full of bright but twisted human lights. In that world, men in capes call themselves gods and stand on towers of lies, and the Emperor of mankind cannot ignore it. On the golden throne, his ruined body never moves, but his will gathers like a spear of light and aims at that sixth star. He chooses to send a shard of himself across the warp, a living thought wrapped in armor and fire, knowing each heartbeat will drain the beacon that guards his own galaxy. He pushes, reality tears, and the breach opens over another Earth. The sky above New York splits. It does not crack like glass. It opens like a wound. A long line of white fire draws itself across the blue, right above the tallest skyscraper with a giant glowing V on it. People in the street stop. Cameras tilt up. Phones rise like a forest of small black mirrors. Inside Vought Tower, alarms scream. A wall of screens shows city feeds, drone views, stock prices, and live streams. One by one, they switch to the same thing, a spear of golden light punching through the clouds. Ashley Barrett, the nervous CEO, stands in the middle of the room in high heels and a blazer, clutching a tablet so hard her knuckles whiten. "What is that?" she breathes. "Object is not ours," a tech says. His voice shakes. "Speed is not possible. No heat signature like a rocket. It's like the air is burning around nothing." On another screen, Homelander hangs in the sky, cape snapping. He was filming a rescue spot, fake fire in a fake building. Now the fake flames look small next to the real light above him. Golden brightness washes over his face. His smile twitches. He does not like that. Homelander's eyes narrow. His ears pick up every scream in the city, every confused heartbeat in Vought Tower, every whispered, "Is that Homelander?" And no, something else. The spear of light expands. Clouds peel back. A ring of fire grows wide and bright, like a second sun trying to be born. Wind slams through the avenues. Windows shatter on the upper floors of Vought Tower. People scream and duck as glass falls like deadly rain. On the sidewalk, a girl in a red hoodie grabs her little brother and pulls him under a bus stop shelter. Shards hit the street around them, sharp and clear. The boy cries. The girl whispers, "Homelander will fix it. He always does." Above them, Homelander feels the air buck. He raises his voice, broadcast through every Vought drone, every mic, every hidden speaker. "This is Homelander," he says, smooth and firm. "Everybody stay calm. I've got you." But the thing falling from the sky is not his. The ring of fire closes in on itself. For a moment, there is only a ball of golden light. It moves down, slow and sure, as if gravity does not matter. Homelander rockets up to meet it, leaving a blue-white trail. He stops 10 meters away. The light peels back, like a shell. Inside it stands a giant man in armor, the color of the sun. The plates are thick and carved with faces, wings, and lightning bolts. A long cloak hangs behind him, red and heavy. A halo of golden fire floats above his head, bright but controlled. The Emperor of mankind arrives. New York feels it. Every human nerve near him sings with fear and awe. People drop to their knees without knowing why. Glass dust rises in a slow ring under his feet as he hovers, supported by will alone. Homelander feels something he has almost never felt in his life. He feels small. For a heartbeat, nobody moves. Then one of the shattered upper floors of Vought Tower gives way. Steel beams twist. A whole corner of the building starts to fall, chunks of glass and stone tumbling toward the streets. Cars honk, people scream. A bus tries to swerve and slams into a taxi. Homelander turns his head. He could catch some of it, not all. The Emperor raises one hand. His gauntlet is huge, fingers like gilded pillars. He does not shout. He does not pose. He simply wills. Invisible force blooms from his palm, a wide curved wall of power. The falling building debris slams into the unseen shield and stops, hanging in the air like a frozen wave. The strain rips across the warp. Far away, on a dead throne on Terra, machines shriek and sparks fly. Thousands of robed psychers wired into that throne arch their backs and burn out in an instant, brains cooked by the pressure. The Astronomicon, the psychic lighthouse of the Imperium, flickers. Here, in this other New York, no one sees that. They see a god hold up a building with one hand. Codex note: a focused human soul, backed by 10,000 sacrificed psychers, can shape force fields over a city. The Emperor sweeps his hand aside. The hanging debris glides, slow and controlled, into the empty river. Water explodes upward as steel, glass and stone crash into it. Waves slam the banks, boats rock and nearly tip. But the streets are clear. The girl in the red hoodie looks up with wide eyes. "That's not Homelander," her brother whispers. Homelander floats between the two lights, the golden giant and the flickering ring in the sky behind him. His jaw is tight. His smile is gone. Cameras zoom in on his face. Millions of watchers across the world see his eyes flick to the side, measuring, weighing. "Who the hell are you?" he calls. The Emperor looks at him. His eyes glow like small suns under the helmet's shadow. His voice comes out deep and layered, as if a choir speaks with him. "I am the Emperor of mankind," he says. "I am here because your gods are children and your shepherds eat their flock." The city does not understand the words. They understand the weight. News crawls flash. Unknown soup. Alien threat. V-brand launch. Vaught's social media team goes into overdrive. Hashtags explode. New god? Vought did this. Homelander save us. Ashley grips her tablet and screams into a phone. "We need messaging," she barks. "Now. This is a Vought ally, or a villain, or, I don't care, pick one and write it." Another voice cuts through the tower's chaos. "Get me a secure line to the Pentagon," says Stan Edgar's replacement, in a calm, cold tone, on one of the upper floors, and to Congresswoman Newman. Victoria Newman, head of the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs, watches the feeds in a dark office in DC. Her eyes look tired. Her hands are folded. When the golden giant appears, she leans forward. Her pupils tighten like someone trying to see a bomb's timer. "That's not Compound V," she says softly. She knows the feel of V. She knows the files, power sets, limits, control codes. This thing does not fit any of them. It makes her skin crawl in a different way, as if the air itself is listening. On a landing pad across the river, a military helicopter lands. Grace Mallory steps out, wind tearing at her grey hair and coat. She does not work for Vought. She works for all the little people who get crushed when gods fight. She squints up at the sky, shades the sun with one hand, and sees the two figures floating there. "Okay," she mutters. "One golden fascist knight, one unstable patriot in a flag cape. This day just keeps getting better." She grabs a radio. "This is Mallory. I want every long-range weapon pointed at that breach, not the soup. If this is an invasion, we take out the door, not the soldier." Above, Homelander decides he is tired of feeling small. He straightens his shoulders. His smile comes back, but it does not reach his eyes. "Well, Emperor," he calls, voice swelling over the entire city through Vaught's network. "Welcome to my world. I'm Homelander. People here already have a protector." He glides closer until they are face to face, only a few meters apart. The Emperor studies him. He sees the skin, the perfect hair, the bright blue eyes that hide rot. He sees the genetic changes in every cell, the compound 5V woven in like a cheap copy of something older and darker. He sees a soul swollen with love for himself and hunger for the crowd. "You are a weapon made into an idol," the Emperor says. "You are a child told he is God." Homelander's smile cracks. "Careful," he says lightly. "You're in my sky. You don't want to scare the nice people down there. They like me." "Liar," something in him whispers. The Emperor does not look away. "I see no sky that belongs to you," he says. "I see mankind. I see fear and chains. I see men in towers selling salvation like candy. That will end." Homelander's hands clench. Down below, more helicopters swarm. One lands on the roof of a nearby building. Out steps Victoria Newman, wind whipping her hair. She walks to the edge and looks up at the two figures. An agent hands her a loudhailer. She does not use it. She knows both can hear her voice clearly. "This is Victoria Newman," she calls, clear and firm. "Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs. Golden Guy, you are entering US airspace without authorization. Identify your origin and intent, or we will treat you as a hostile actor." The Emperor glances down at her. "A secular authority," he notes. "Good. I will speak plainly." He lets himself drop, slow, until he hovers at the same height as Newman's rooftop. Homelander drops with him, not willing to give up any ground. Cameras track, zoom, and broadcast. The world holds its breath. "I come from a distant future where mankind drowns in the dark between stars," the Emperor says. "I rule an empire that should never have been needed. I am here to stop your kind from turning this world into a seed of that nightmare." There is no cheer, no music swell, only the hiss of wind, the buzz of cameras, and the distant sirens. Newman's face stays still. Inside, she is doing math. She sees a being who calls himself Emperor, speaks of ruling, and talks about stopping your kind. Her kind, Supes, the asset class she controls and fears. "And who asked you to come save us?" she says. The Emperor looks out over the city. He sees billboards of capes and smiles. He sees hidden crime scenes in shadows and alleys. He hears audio that most cannot hear, a Supe laughing as he kills by mistake, a PR team burying it, a child's crying edited out of a video. "Your dead did," he says quietly. "The ones your gods crushed and forgot. The warp carries screams." Newman's jaw tightens. Homelander hears something else. He hears the words "rule an empire" and "gods are children." He hears a challenge. His fear turns to anger, then to something he knows better: control. He flies a little higher, just enough that cameras tilt up to keep him centered. "Okay, big guy," he says, voice easing into charm. "That's a lot of dramatic talk, but here in America, we have laws, borders, chains of command. You want to help? You talk to Vought, you talk to me." His eyes flare, just a spark. The Emperor feels the heat behind the stare. He knows power when it is ready to kill. He also knows crowds. He feels the people below watching, their faith shifting back and forth like a tide between two shores. "If you are the greatest defender of this world," he says, "then let us see how you defend when your masters turn their knives on you." As if on cue, something new appears in the sky. A jet, sleek and black, slices through the clouds. Beside it fly 3 capes, Queen Maeve, A-Train, and a newer Supe in heavy armor, a Vought experimental asset called Sunburst. Their comms crackle with orders from below. "Non-lethal force," a handler says. "Optics are key. You are here to welcome and guide the new Supe, not attack." unless he turns violent. Then you let Homelander lead. Non-lethal, Sunburst mutters. Inside his helmet, his skin glows. Life a constant low burn. Sure. The jet bank turns, circling the open breach still smouldering overhead. It senses red strange energy levels. No radiation, no known signal. Just wrong. A tech in the Vought Tower swallows hard. Energy field around breach is growing, he reports. We don't know how long it stays stable. In the helicopter, Mallory listens to military chatter. Unidentified object appears stable for now, one general says. If it spreads, we may need to nuke the airspace. Over New York, another voice snaps. Better scorched air than a hole in reality, sir. Mallory knows a fracture when she sees one. She grabs her radio again. This is Mallory. We are not dropping a nuke on a city while the most popular soup in the world is smiling for cameras. You want chaos, because that is how you get chaos. She looks up at the breach. The edges of the sky wound flicker. Strange shapes move in it, like shadows behind a curtain. For a moment, outlines appear. Massive ships with ribbed hulls and Gothic towers, and a row of giant armored figures standing in a chapel of iron and bone. Then the image fades. What the hell was that? Someone in the Pentagon breathes over the line. Replay it, a scientist says. Slow it down. They cannot slow down reality, only the recording. The Emperor feels the warp pressing at the breach. Daemons claw at it, drawn to fresh minds. His shard holds them back by sheer effort. Each second burns more fuel, more psychers on terror, more of his own ragged soul. His armor's glow dims a little. Homelander sees the dim. Getting tired already, he says, voice low enough that only the Emperor hears. You sure you're up to this, Gramps? The Emperor does not answer the taunt. He turns toward the breach and raises his hand again. This time, the air hums with a different force. Not a shield, a lock. Far away, servitors and tech priests around the Golden Throne chant louder. Circuits overload. Ancient machines bleed oil like black tears. A dozen more psychers die, their bodies falling limp. In New York, the wound in the sky stops spreading. It stays the same size, a tight burning hole above the tower. The edges stabilize. The shadows behind it retreat. The Emperor exhales, slow and heavy. That door leads to my domain, he says. It must not be left wide. But I cannot close it without tearing this sky apart. I will hold it, for now. Newman hears a lever. So you need something, she says. You can't close it alone. You're stuck here. That means you have limits. The Emperor looks at her. I have always had limits, he says. I am just honest about their cost. Homelander floats between them, feeling the conversation slide away from him. Newman shifts her stance, taking control. The cameras pan to her. The headlines start to write themselves. Government questions, new soup. Homelander and mystery. Allie. He will not allow that. Homelander raises his voice. Folks, he says, eyes on the nearest drone. I think we can all agree we don't want some alien king making threats over our cities. So here's what we're going to do. Vought and your government will sit down with our new friend, and we'll see how he can help. He smiles at the Emperor, toothy and bright. Right? He offers his hand. The Emperor looks at it. He knows empty gestures. He has invented half of them. But this is not his Imperium. The people here are not his subjects. Yet, they are still free, in their own broken way. He must not start with open war, not when he does not know all the pieces on the board. For the sake of your people, he says, I will walk into your house. He takes Homelander's hand. The contact is small, but every eye sees it. Cameras zoom in. Some normal human in a living room gasps. Memes begin before the handshake ends. 2 gods touching, one in stars and stripes, one in ancient gold. For Homelander, the handshake feels like grabbing a live power line. He hides the wince. Inside, something in him shudders. This being is older and heavier than him. It feels like standing next to the sun and calling himself warm. He squeezes harder. The Emperor allows it. Bones in the golden gauntlet do not break. The air around them buzzes with clashing auras. Below, a few people faint. Newman's phone buzzes. She glances down. A message from an unknown secure channel flashes. Do not antagonize. Learn everything. Control if possible. She pockets the phone. Then let's talk, she says. All of us. Vought, the government, and you. We have a secure facility where we can... The sky screams. Every ear in the city hears it at once. A psychic flare made sound. The breach above them pulses. For a moment, the lock wavers. One thing slips through before the Emperor can clamp down again. It is not a demon from his own galaxy. It is something born here. A man-shaped blur of blue and red tears out of the breach and slams into the side of a distant skyscraper. Concrete explodes. The blur rebounds, shaking its head, eyes glowing. It is a soup vault lost years ago. Project Choir. Once, he could hear every human mind within 10 miles and sing thoughts into them. He was too dangerous, too unstable. They buried him in a deep black site and lied about a training accident. Now he bursts out of the breach, eyes wide with terror and rage, voice a raw scream. His arrival is the inciting threat. He lands on a rooftop and clutches his head. Too loud, he howls. Too loud. Voices from everywhere, 2 worlds. His power stretches. People below drop their phones and clutch their ears as a sudden wave of sound and thought crashes into them. Memories slam together. A woman in the street sees her worst fear and falls shaking. A soldier in the Pentagon tastes the Emperor's galaxy for a heartbeat and vomits. Homelander's vision blurs. For a moment, he hears not cheers but whispers from a million minds, all at once, all honest. They fear him, they hate him, they want him, and they want him gone. The noise cuts deep. The Emperor feels the psychic shock as a knife in his own mind. He knows this kind of weapon. Not as strong as the psychers of his own age, but crude and wild. Worse, it is touching the warp through the breach, pulling screams from terror and this earth together into one storm. If it grows, it can tear both skies. Contain him, Mallory snaps into her radio. Now. F-35s are scrambling, a pilot says. But if he's a soup, we don't shoot first, a general cuts in. We let Homelander handle it. Cameras are on. All eyes turn back to the 2 figures in the sky. Homelander blinks away tears and grits his teeth. His pride wants to blast the screaming man out of the world with one hot beam. His brand wants a careful rescue. Vought wants control. The government wants data. The Emperor wants survival. We must end his link, the Emperor says. He is a beacon. Every second he tears the veil. Homelander bares his teeth. I've got it, he snaps. This is my job. He rockets toward the distant rooftop, cape snapping. The Emperor follows, a comet of gold behind the red, white, blue dart. Newman watches them go. Tell the team to track everything, she says. Power levels, wavelengths, neural interference. If we're going to own this Emperor, we need to know how he fights. Ashley, back in the tower, sees her screens fill with new data. A quick-thinking PR staffer slaps a banner over the live stream. Homelander leads first contact response. Vaught's logo spins at the corner. In the helicopter, Mallory grips a strap and braces as the pilot banks to follow the two flying giants. Up to now, she says to herself, half in disbelief, a golden alien king dropped out of a hole in the sky, held up a building, shook hands with our biggest sociopath, and now they're both chasing a screaming mind bomb. And it's not even noon. She closes her eyes for a second. She has seen wars, coups, human monsters. She has not seen this. But she knows one thing. When gods fight, regular people die unless someone makes hard choices fast. On the rooftop ahead, Project Choir screams again. His power peaks. Every bird in the city explodes into the air at once, wings beating in wild panic. Cars crash into each other as drivers lose focus. A train overshoots a station, brakes shrieking. Above him, two streaks of light approach. One gold, one blue-white. The first true battle of this new war is about to begin. Project Choir staggers on the rooftop. His eyes glow white. Blood runs from his nose. His mouth opens, and a howl of thoughts pours out. Not sound, not words, just raw fear and need and memory pushed into every mind nearby. A cop on the street feels his own gun jump in his hand. For a second, he sees his dead brother standing in front of him. He fires. The bullet ricochets off a car, sparks flying. A bystander drops, screaming, leg hit. The cop wakes like from a dream and stares at the blood on the pavement. A pilot in a jet above the city sees fire fill his cockpit. He yanks the stick hard. The jet rolls, almost clipping a skyscraper. People on that floor feel the shadow of the wing drag over their desks. Papers fly. Coffee spills. Somebody laughs in shock, because if they do not laugh, they will cry. Homelander slams down onto the rooftop like a falling bomb. Concrete cracks under his boots. Wind blasts outward. His eyes glow red. "Hey," he calls over the shriek in his head. "Choir buddy. Long time no see." The screaming man whirls. His skin flickers between normal and translucent. Light makes a halo around his hair. "Get out of my head," he howls. His voice doubles and triples, echoes of 10,000 panicked people layered in it. Too loud, too loud. Homelander feels the whole city inside his skull. He hears kids crying, old men praying, fans yelling his name, enemies cursing it. For the first time, he hears them all at once without filters or edits. Every lie Vought has ever told about him trembles in that noise. He bares his teeth. Shut up. Twin beams of red tear from his eyes. They cut across the roof in a blazing line and meet Project Choir's chest. Flesh burns. The smell of cooked meat fills the air. Choir screams, but the scream does not go out. It goes in, into every mind he touches. The city doubles over. On the street below, the girl in the red hoodie gasps and clutches her head. She sees the moment she almost drowned as a kid. Her brother sees the dog he lost as a toddler. A doctor halfway across town sees every patient he ever failed. The Emperor lands with much less noise. His boots touch the roof. Light rolls off his armor in slow waves. The screaming thoughts slam into him like a storm. For an instant, his vision shifts. He sees not New York, but terror on fire, ages ago. Thunder warriors die in heaps. He hears his own past. He holds. "Enough," he says. His voice is not loud, but it is steady. It cuts through the noise for those close to him. Homelander's eyes flicker. Project Choir's shriek wavers. "You are a conduit," the Emperor says to Choir. "You pull the minds of all around you and pour them back out. You touch the warp through that breach and do not know it. You will break this world if you keep screaming." "Can't stop," Choir pants. His hands claw at his temples. Blood seeps from his ears. Too many voices, not just here, There's a city of dead suns. There's a throne made of machines and bones. There's 1 billion people praying and they all hurt. The Emperor's jaw tightens. He knows what choir feels. He feels it every moment of his endless half-death. You were not made for this load, he says. They gave you a piece of God's work and no path to carry it. He steps closer. Homelander steps in front of him. Whoa, whoa, Homelander says. He spreads his arms. Debris crunches under his boots. Okay, Goldie, I know this one. He's a Vought asset. Dangerous, but workable. We can fix him. We have doctors. The word sounds weak even to him. The Emperor looks past Homelander at the bodies on nearby roofs, at the people below clutching their heads and rolling on sidewalks, at the small blips of cardiac arrest and stroke popping in his expanded senses. You are killing hundreds for one broken tool, he says softly. Homelander's eyes flash. They're not. He stops. He was going to say real. He was going to say important. The Emperor sees the word die in his throat. The difference between us is measured by that pause, the Emperor says. Move. Power presses out of him like a slow, crushing tide. It is not visible, but the air thickens. Homelander feels it on his skin. His cape hangs limp. For the first time, someone's presence actually pushes him back without touching him. He grits his teeth and takes a step sideways rather than backward, saving his pride with a tiny compromise. All right, he says sharply. You want to handle him? Fine. But this is being recorded. People see what you do. Good, the Emperor says. They should. He reaches out with his mind. He does not need to raise his hand, but he does, as much for the cameras as for control. Golden light gathers around his fingers, not a blast, a net. He sinks into Project Choir's thoughts. Inside, it is a nightmare maze. There is the boy's first injection of Compound V, the cold room, the men in lab coats. There is the first time he heard every mind in the building at once, crying, laughing, lying, hiding. There is the joy when he could make them all feel calm. There is the day Vought decided fear sells better than peace. They locked him in a box with speakers and fed him riot footage, war footage, disaster footage. They told him to turn it up. He did. People outside the box lost control and hurt each other. The men with clipboards smiled. The Emperor moves through these memories like a giant through a small house. He does not smash them. He steps over, around and through. He finds the link going up, up, up through the breach, where the warp presses in like a sea of hungry ghosts. He sees terror beyond it, its light flickering. He sees the golden throne, the failing machines, the piled corpses of psychers at its base. He sees his own broken body locked in its chair. His shard here trembles. This must end, he whispers, both in the mindscape and in the real air. Then end it, Homelander growls behind him. How? Project Choir gasps. Can't stop, can't turn it down. They made me like this. You did not choose this, the Emperor says, but I must choose for all the others you are hurting. He gathers his will. In Choir's mind, the link to the warp looks like a shining cord. Beautiful, terrible. The Emperor wraps his hand around it. I can cut you off, he says. You will die. The noise will stop. The breach will steady. The screams from two worlds will ease. Project Choir sobs. No more noise, he whispers. Please. On the rooftop, his body shakes. Blood runs from his eyes now. His knees buckle. Homelander watches, jaw tight, fist clenching. This painted god of another world choosing life or death for a man he does not own. Easy there, Homelander says. We could... The Emperor pulls. The cord snaps. A shockwave of silence slams outward. Every mind in the city hears a deep ringing tone, like a giant bell. Then, nothing. The noise stops. Thoughts fall back into their own heads. People on the streets gasp and blink. The cop lowers his gun. The doctor wipes his mouth and looks around. Project Choir slumps into the Emperor's arms. His eyes are empty. His chest rises once, twice, then stills. The glow around him dies. The warp around the breach calms, its edge trembling but no longer flaring wild. The Emperor gently lays the body down. He places 2 armored fingers on the dead man's forehead. For a heartbeat, their souls touch. The Emperor gives him a tiny push away from the worst currents. It is all he can do. On Terra, the Astronomicon stops flickering for a moment. An admiral of the Imperium stands on the bridge of his battleship, looking at the massive, ghostly light in the warp beyond the hull. For a second, it steadies. He exhales and does not know why. Codex note: severing a rogue psychic conduit can save many minds, but always kills the bearer. Cameras close in on the rooftop. They see the golden giant kneeling by a dead man. They see Homelander standing over them, fist tight. They see the city behind them, wounded but not burning. Ashley watches the feed and wants to scream. "We needed Choir back," she says. "He was evidence. He was leverage. Now he's a body. How am I supposed to spin this?" A PR manager answers without thinking. "Mystery Soup puts down dangerous rogue and saves millions," he says. "Homelander leads the charge. We cut the footage right before that last bit. Make it seem like they did it together." Ashley stares at him. "Or," he adds quickly, "we talk about the tragic death of a troubled hero. That plays too." In the helicopter, Mallory presses her fingers to her forehead. She has seen executions. This did not look like one. It looked like mercy with teeth. "He picked the many over the one," she says to no one. That's what every monster tells themselves right before they stack skulls. She looks down at the streets. Ambulances weave through traffic. People sit on curbs dazed. Some hug, some vomit. One old woman lights a candle on her stoop and whispers a prayer for the new god in gold, because he at least looks sorry. On another rooftop, a man with a beard and a hard stare lowers a pair of cheap binoculars. Billy Butcher spits. "Bloody hell," he says. "Now that is a soup." Beside him, Huey presses a shaking hand to his chest. His heart is racing. He still feels echoes of other minds in his head. Kimiko sits on the ledge, staring up at the breach. Frenchie leans on a vent, eyes wide. "That was something," Huey says. "He just killed that guy. And he was right, and it was wrong, and I don't know how to feel." Butcher grins without humor. "You feel grateful, you daft twit," he says. "That walking tin saint might be the only one out there who can look Homelander in the eye and not blink." He nods toward the golden figure. "We get him on our side," he says. "Or we get him to take out the other one, and then we take out him. That's the game." Huey swallows. "How do you make a god do what you want?" Butcher's smile gets thinner. "Same way you handle any cult leader," he says. "Show him the sins of his priests." He pulls out his phone. "Mallory," he says when she picks up. "You seeing this?" "Front row," she answers. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking we ask Mr. Emperor what he plans to do about the company that turned that poor sod into a walking panic attack," Butcher says, "and we give him a tour." Mallory closes her eyes for a second. "You want to bring him into the black sites?" she says. "You got a better idea?" Butcher asks. "You've been trying to shut Vought down with hearings and files for years. How's that going? Maybe it's time to try angry cosmic dictator with a conscience." Mallory looks out the helicopter window at the golden shape lifting into the air again. I don't invite nukes into powder rooms, she says, but I do not leave them unmonitored either. Fine, I'll see if Newman can set up a meeting. Official, then unofficial. On the rooftop, the Emperor rises. He looks down at Project Quire's body. He gestures. A thin shaft of golden light burns the corpse clean, leaving only scorched concrete. No grave for Vought to turn into a brand. No lab sample to twist into something worse. Homelander watches, jaw tight. You didn't have to do that, he says. Yes, the Emperor says simply. I did. They would have cut him open, copied him. You know this. Homelander says nothing, because he does. They hang in the air for a moment, above the city that is both calmer and more afraid. Newman's voice crackles in both their ears through hidden earpieces slipped in by unseen drones. Gentlemen, she says, the President, Vought, and the Bureau would like to talk to you in a secure location. Today, before this gets away from us. It already has, the Emperor says, but I will come. Homelander forces a smile. Yeah, he says. Let's go talk. He rockets away toward the river. The Emperor follows, slower but steady, a bright, constant light behind Homelander's streak. Cameras follow them to a secret facility that everyone will pretend not to know about, and everyone will see anyway. Up to now, a god from another future has saved a city, killed a man to stop a greater loss, and shaken the story that made Homelander king. Now, people with suits and secrets will try to put him in a box. The bunker is old. It sits under a dull office block near the river, a Cold War shell with new guts, steel doors, cameras in every corner. Thick cables snake along the ceiling, feeding power to dead-looking walls that are not dead at all. The entrance is simple. A freight elevator big enough for trucks. Today it holds 2 men who could tear it apart with their hands. Homelander leans against the wall, arms folded. The Emperor stands still in the center, armor barely fitting under the lights. The elevator hums as it drops. The air feels tight. You know, Homelander says, voice light, most people take the stairs. Most people cannot burn holes in their world by breathing wrong, the Emperor answers. It's better I walk less. Homelander snorts. Humor, he says. Cute. You think I joke, the Emperor says. I do not. The elevator hits bottom with a soft thud. The doors open to a wide chamber filled with tables, screens, and people who pretend not to be afraid. Generals in crisp uniforms, Vought lawyers in suits, federal agents with lanyards, and a few faces that do not fit any pile. Grace Mallory, eyes sharp. Starlight, in her gold and white costume but with her shoulders tense. Billy Butcher, in normal clothes but with a predator's smile. Huey, Frenchie, Kimiko, and Mother's Milk stand behind a glass wall, observers who in fact are bait, backup, and insurance. At the head of the room stands Victoria Newman. She steps forward as the 2 gods walk in. Thank you for coming, she says. We have a lot to discuss. The Emperor's gaze sweeps the room. He notes each person. Rank shows in posture as much as clothes. He sees fear in some, greed in others, resolve in a few. He stops for a second on Starlight, sees the pain under her idealism. Then his gaze moves to Butcher, sees a hate that could burn a world. He files it all away. I will speak to you, he says to Newman. You smell of both power and chains. She lifts an eyebrow. That's a poetic way of saying elected official, she replies. Let's start with simple facts. You say you are the Emperor of mankind, from a far future. You arrived through a tear in the sky. You can move things with your mind. You just killed a soup by doing something in his head, yes? Yes, the Emperor says. You plan to do what on this earth? She says. In plain words. He looks at the screens on the wall. They show live news feeds, social media storms, people in costumes holding up homemade signs already. Golden Savior, Go Home Alien, Homelander Stronger. He sees the shape of this world's story, the way it feeds on heroes. I plan to stop humans from being turned into toys, he says. I plan to end the rule of those who sell powers, like food. I plan to close the path that joins this fragile world to mine before the things that hunt my people find you. There is a small silence. Okay, Newman says slowly. That's big. Homelander steps in. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, he says, smile new and wide. Emperor here is still learning how we do things. Right now, we're focused on one thing, keeping people safe. Right, buddy? Buddy. The Emperor turns his head. Safety is not a slogan, he says. It is a balance of pain now against death later. Butcher barks a short laugh behind the glass. Oh, I like him, he says. Mallory cuts in. Let's talk about the company that made Project Choir, she says. She flicks a remote. A screen changes. Photos of labs. Kids in hospital gowns. Rows of Compound V blue glowing in vials. Vought International, she says. You've met their top asset. They've been shooting this drug into babies for decades. They lied to the world. They covered up the deaths. They made things like Choir, then locked them away when they were inconvenient. She looks at the Emperor. That's who you're dealing with when you talk about toys, she says. They're not gods. They're not shepherds. They're a corporation. Vaught's lawyers stiffen. Objection, one says automatically. We've been cleared in numerous federal. Shut up, Newman says without looking at him. The lawyer shuts up. The Emperor stares at the images. He sees the cold rooms, the children screaming, the bright blue fluid that whispers of the warp. Compound V is not his universe's psychic gene, but it rhymes with it. It is a clumsy, dangerous shortcut to power. In my time, he says, mankind was almost destroyed when some humans opened the door between mind and warp without care. They turned into monsters. They called them gods. They made deals and gave their children to the dark. He points at the screen. This is the same sin, he says. Starlight steps forward. I was one of those kids, she says. Her voice shakes, but she stands tall. They told my mom it was a vaccine. They told her I'd be special. She thought she was helping me. She had no idea. She looks at Homelander. And they made you into the face that sold it, she says. Homelander's smile goes cold. Careful, Annie, he says softly. Why? She snaps. You think he doesn't know? He's the Emperor of mankind. He can see everything, right? The Emperor does not say he can see everything. He can see enough. Compound V touches the same sea I hold back, he says. Your powers are not magic. They are wounds in reality that bleed energy. Left unbound, they will draw predators. Predators? A general asks. Demons, the Emperor says. Creatures made of emotion and thought that want only to feed. The room shifts. Some people scoff inside their heads. Some believe at once. Some, like Butcher, simply file the word under things to kill later. Newman puts both hands on the table. Let's say you're right, she says. Let's say this drug, this system, leads to disaster. What do you propose? We can't just snap our fingers and make every soup vanish. They're already here. Some are dangerous. Some are useful. Some are kids who didn't ask for this. Do you kill them all? She stares hard at him. Do you kill my daughter? She adds quietly. The Emperor turns his head. For the first time, he studies Newman closely, beyond the surface. He sees the flick of energy behind her eyes, the buried trigger in her mind, the pattern of her head-popping power. He sees the small, sleeping child in a safe house somewhere, glowing faintly blue. Your child carries the same taint, he says. She also carries your guilt and your hope. No, I do not kill children for what others did to them, not if there is any other path. Newman's shoulders ease a fraction. So what? She asks. You control them, train them, put them all in uniforms, make them your army. He does not flinch. Yes, he says. In time, under law, under watch. Those who cannot be trusted with their gifts will serve in ways they cannot harm. Those who refuse will be stopped. That's a nice word for killed, Mallory says. It is, the Emperor replies. That's a police state, Starlight says. That's worse than Vought, just with a different logo. Is it worse to be ruled by cowards who lie about it, the Emperor asks, or by someone who tells you the cost up front? Free will is not free when every choice opens a door to monsters. Huey frowns behind the glass. But people have to choose, he says. That's the whole point. If one man decides for everyone, even if he's right, that's not human. Butcher snorts. Tell that to the dead kid on the street when some soup uses him as a speed bump, he says. Worlds full of folks who never got to choose nothing because the powerful chose for them. Maybe a bastard like this Emperor is what it takes. Mother's Milk shakes his head. I grew up hearing about strong men who said that, he says. Dictators, generals. They all said they knew best. They all stacked bodies. I'm not saying Vought is good, but trading one kind of monster for another isn't a win. Frenchie lights a cigarette. He shouldn't have lit here. If this golden man can really stop Homelander, he says softly, that is something. The question is, who stops him? Back at the table, Homelander lets them talk for a while. He hears the words army, police state, dictator. His image sense pricks. He can almost feel the approval ratings shifting, graphs twisting, hashtags forming in the digital air. This Emperor could become the new hero, or the new villain. Either way, Homelander risks being second. He cannot allow that. Okay, he says, clapping his hands once. The sound cracks like a gunshot in the room. Lots of big, scary ideas going around. Let's bring it back to basics. He gestures at Starlight. Annie here saves people every day, he says. Kids, old folks. She shows up when someone's about to get crushed by a train and pulls them away. You, he nods at the Emperor, would put her in chains because she has powers. I would put chains on anyone who uses power without answer, the Emperor says. The difference is, I would also put chains on myself. For a moment, the room is silent. Homelander blinks. He hadn't expected that line. You call yourself Emperor, Newman says. You rule a whole galaxy. Who tells you no? My sons tried, the Emperor says quietly. They failed and burned half the stars to ash. I put myself on a throne that kills me slowly so my people could live. Every day, I die a little more to power their ships and guide their armies. My prison is the size of a nation. His voice stays calm. I do not ask to be trusted, he says. I ask to be judged by what I do next. Mallory leans forward. All right, she says. We have a problem in front of us. A breach in the sky that you say connects to a hell full of monsters. We have another problem. A corporation that made living weapons and lost control of them. You want to stop the worst outcomes. So do I. How? The Emperor looks up at the ceiling. He senses the breach like a sawtooth. I must hold the breach in place so it does not widen, he says. To close it completely, I would need to draw on more power than this shard of me has. If I try, I may tear reality instead. So I anchor it. I make it a tight wound instead of an open mouth. And while you do that, Newman asks, I study your world, he says. I find the lines of power. I break the ones that lead to Vaught's labs. I bind the worst of your living weapons. I teach the rest that they serve mankind, not the other way around. He looks at Homelander. You most of all, he says. Homelander's smile is gone now. Cute, he says. Here's my pitch. You play nice. You help with the weird sky problem. In return, Vought and the United States help you. Integrate. We introduce you to the world as a new hero. We control the narrative. We keep people calm. You get all the worship you want without making a mess. The Emperor tilts his head. You think I crossed time and tore my soul to gain worship? He asks. Homelander shrugs. Why else would anyone do that? He says. Starlight's jaw clenches. Maybe because no one else could, she says. Homelander ignores her. Newman cuts in before the tension boils over. We're not going to decide this in one meeting, she says. Right now, we need a joint task force. Government, Vought, independent oversight. She nods toward Mallory and the glass wall. And some people who know where the bodies are buried. Butcher grins. Well, that's us, love, he mutters. Newman taps the table. First goal, she says. Secure the breach. Second, identify all high-risk soups who could interact with it the way Project Choir did. Third, contain Vaught's worst projects before they become more of these conduits. She looks at the Emperor. Are you willing to work with us on those terms? She asks. For now? He does not like half measures. He would rather seize command and drag this world into line by force. But he also knows he is only a shard here, burning fuel every second. A war on two fronts, against the warp and against every army on this planet, would waste lives. For now, he says, I will work with you. But understand this, if your leaders choose to protect their power instead of their people, I will act. Newman nods slowly. Fair, she says. That's about as close to compromise as we're going to get. She glances at Mallory. You'll head the human side, she says. Reporting to me. Vought will assign... Ashley straightens. Homelander, of course, she says quickly. And Starlight. They're America's favorite duo. Great optics. And the Emperor? A general asks. The Emperor folds his hands behind his back. I will be where the breach is weakest, he says, and where the worst of these soups gather. Perfect, Butcher mutters. Just where we want you, Sunshine. Huey frowns. You're really thinking of using him, he says. Like he's... what? A big soup-killing gun. Butcher's eyes stay on the Emperor. He's not a gun, he says. He's a bomb someone else already dropped. I'm just making sure it lands on the right target. Before anyone can say more, an alarm beeps. A tech at the far end of the room looks up, pale. Director Newman, he calls. You're going to want to see this. Newman walks over. The Emperor turns as well. The main screen flips to a live feed from a different facility. Stark walls, bright lights. A man sitting on a bed in a cell, head in his hands. Who is that? The Emperor asks. Off the book's Vought asset, Mallory says grimly. Project Mute, early compound V-test, power set, cancels other soup's abilities within a small radius. We grabbed him before Ashley's people could. He's been... quiet. On the screen, the lights flicker. The man in the cell lifts his head. His eyes are black. The camera image distorts. For a moment, everyone in the bunker feels a strange chill. Not cold, exactly. Just lack. The Emperor's senses, which usually blaze with the noise of every mine nearby, suddenly go thin around that cell. "What did you do to his room?" he asks. "Nothing," Mallory says. "He's in a Faraday cage. No signals, no special tech. Just concrete, steel, and our own denial." On the feed, Project Mute stands. He takes a step towards the camera. Where he walks, static follows. Paint peels from the walls. Not off, but away, as if the idea of color is being erased. The fluorescent light nearest him goes dark. "Power spike," the tech says. His hands fly over the console. "I'm seeing nothing. No heat change, no EM change. It's like the instruments think that part of the room doesn't exist." The Emperor leans closer. He reaches out with his mind, brushing the edges of the feed like fingers grazing a curtain. He feels the usual hum of the warp around every living thing. Fear, hope, anger, faith. And then, where Project Mute stands, he feels nothing. Not calm, not peace. Absence. He jerks back a little. "What?" Homelander says. He tries to make it mocking, but there is a thread of fear in it. "He is a hole," the Emperor says slowly. "In my sight, in the sea behind it. I cannot feel his soul. I cannot feel the warp where he stands. It bends around him." On the screen, Project Mute smiles. It is not a nice smile. His lips move. There is no audio from the cell, but the Emperor does not need it. He reads the shape of the words. "I hear you," the man mouths. Then the camera dies. The feed cuts to static. "Loss of signal," the tech says. "Backup cameras. Gone. What the hell?" Alarms start to wail in the other facility. Security cams in hallways show guards running toward the cell block. The closer they get to Mute's door, the more the picture degrades. Color drains, edges blur. Finally, the feed cuts out entirely, leaving only a grey fog on screen. "Send in a soup," a general snaps. "One who can handle—" "We can't," Mallory says. "This side is off books. Only normals. That was the point. To keep him away from people like Homelander." "Good job," Butcher says dryly. "How's that working now?" Newman's eyes flick to the Emperor. "You said he's a hole in your... whatever that is," she says. "Can he hurt you?" The Emperor thinks in quick steps. His power here flows from the same warp he holds back in his own time. This absence eats that link. If Project Mute stands near him, the Emperor's telepathy, his force fields, all of it, could be stripped away. The shard could be cut off from the throne's support. "If he comes close," he says slowly, "my powers will weaken. The breach may slip from my grip. If he touches the edge of it, he may make a bigger hole, one that things on my side can use." Homelander smirks. "So he's your kryptonite," he says. The Emperor does not know the word. "He is an anti-soul," he says instead. "Your V-drug has, by chance or design, created something like my own blanks, humans whose very presence pushes the warp away. In my time, they are rare and dangerous. In your world, he is the first I've seen. He can hurt me." Mallory exhales. "Well," she says, "there it is. A soup who scares the soup who scares us." She looks at Newman. "If Vought gets to him first," she says, "they'll put a leash on him and point him at whoever they can't control. Homelander, the Emperor, maybe you, if they ever learn what you are." Newman's jaw tightens. "That can't happen," she says. "We contain him. Now." The Emperor closes his eyes for a moment. He sends his mind outward, searching for the hole. It is hard. His senses go out like light, and this man is a shadow that does not reflect it. But emptiness has a shape too. Crowds of minds bend around it. Fear points at it like arrows. He finds a spot on the map, an industrial district at the edge of the city. Old warehouses, train yards. The null point is moving toward them. He is heading for open space, the Emperor says. Away from people. That is, curious. Homelander cracks his neck. Well, good, he says. Less collateral. He looks at Newman, at the cameras he knows are still running. Let me go, he says. I'll bring him in. Quiet. Clean. People see me protecting them from another rogue soup. You get your asset back. The Emperor sees how we do things on Earth. Everybody wins. The Emperor shakes his head. If you go alone, he says, and he turns off your power, you will be just a man at the mercy of someone who can erase you from the world's eyes. He could walk you into a room and end you without anyone seeing. Homelander's nostrils flare. I'm not just a man, he says. Prove it by not being stupid, Mallory snaps. The room goes quiet. Newman rubs her temple. Joint mission, she says at last. Homelander, the Emperor, and a ground team, Mallory's people. She glances at the glass wall. Plus some specialists. Butcher's smile turns sharp. Oh, we're in it now, he says. Huey swallows. So we're going after a guy who can turn off soups, he says. With 2 soups and no backup power. Cool. Great. Awesome. Frenchie pats his shoulder. Do not worry, mon ami, he says. We have explosives. Explosives do not care about powers. Kimiko signs with quick hands. Her message is simple. If he can't use powers, he still bleeds. Mother's Milk sets his jaw. If this guy really shuts down powers just by being near, he says, he might be the only one who can stop Homelander if Goldie goes back to his own time. We can't let Vought own him. The Emperor looks at them through the glass. They look back. He sees in them something he recognizes. Small people who have decided to stand against giants. In his time, they would be partisans on some forgotten world, holding a wall against orcs with broken guns. I will not let your rulers turn this mute into a chain for your necks, he says. But we may have to hurt him to keep him from killing far more. Newman nods. Then we have our next move, she says. Find him. Understand him. Contain him. Alive if possible. The Emperor turns back to the map. Project Mute, now, more than that. Now something that eats reality. Moves toward the train yard. Around him, cameras stop working. Phones die. Streetlights flicker. To the normal people in his path, it feels like walking into a dead church. In my time, the Emperor says quietly, we used blanks to stand near demons and keep them caged. If this man learns to hate the right thing, he could be our shield, or he could be the knife that cuts my throat. His eyes glow brighter for a moment. He feels the warp ripple as the null moves closer to the breach's outer influence. We must reach him before the things on my side notice him, he says. Because if they do, they will whisper in his absence and teach him to hate the living. Power and danger are now clear. A soup who erases power itself walks toward the edge of a hole between worlds. A god from the future and a god of a broken present must work together to stop him. And in the shadows behind them, humans with scars and plans load guns and sharpen words. The train yard looks like a graveyard for machines. Rust covers the rails. Old boxcars sit at odd angles, tagged with fading graffiti. Weeds push up through cracked concrete. A light wind moves trash in slow circles. At the far edge, near the old maintenance sheds, reality thins. Project Mute walks there, hands in his pockets. His step is calm. Every few meters, another thing dies. A street lamp's bulb goes out. A security camera sputters and goes dark. A stray dog trots towards him, ears perked, then whines and runs away, tail between its legs. He likes the quiet. There are no voices in his head, no hum of faraway power lines. Even the city's distant roar feels muffled here. He smiles, a small, simple thing. I hear you, he says to the empty air. You're coming. He does not mean the Emperor. He means the nothing that waits beyond the edges of his mind, like a wide, dark lake with no bottom. It does not speak words. It offers a feeling. No more pain, no more noise, no more gods. He keeps walking. In the bunker, they lay the map out. It is a live satellite feed on the table. Little tags show power outages spreading along the river, a trail of black dots leading to the train yard. Mallory points with a pen. He's moving away from dense population, she says. That's good for us. Less collateral. But he's also heading toward a lot of steel and open space. Terrible for us. Hard to box him in. Newman nods. We need goals, she says. Very clear ones. Emperor. The Emperor stands at the end of the table. His armor fills half the room's attention without trying. He taps the map with one big finger. His goal is simple, he says. Silence. He has lived too long surrounded by the constant scream of your kind. Powers, machines, minds. My presence makes it worse. The breach makes it worse. So he walks where the world is thinnest and weakest, where he can erase more. Erase? Starlight asks. The Emperor's eyes narrow. He's not just turning off lights, he says. He's turning off presence. Cameras do not just break near him. They forget they were ever on. My sight does not just fail. It bends around him. Huey frowns. So he's not trying to hurt people, he says. He just wants quiet, like a guy leaving a loud party. Leaving a loud party and walking into a gas main with a lit match, Mallory says. He might not want to kill anyone. He'll do it anyway. Newman gestures at the breach marker on another screen. And if he reaches the edge of this thing, she asks. The Emperor looks up. Standard counters fail because he eats the fuel of power itself, he says. Guns will still fire, but your targeting systems may glitch. Radios will die. Soups will lose their gifts if they get too close, because their gifts draw on the same field he cancels. My powers vanish in his shadow. He rests both hands on the table. If his null field touches the breach, he says, it may cut my hold on it. The warp will push through. It will not find a wall. It will find a hole. Things will force their way in, around him, through him. Starlight rubs her arms. Like demons, she says quietly. Yes, the Emperor says. Homelander crosses his arms. So we stay at range, he says. We hit him with missiles, drones, snipers. We don't get close enough for him to turn us off. Simple. Mallory shakes her head. Cameras can't see him clearly, she says. Electronics near him fry or just forget. The only way we've kept track of him is the pattern of stuff dying as he walks. If we start dropping artillery on that pattern, we're just guessing. We'll hit empty lots, warehouses, maybe houses. Collateral damage is part of war, a general says flatly. Not this war, Newman snaps. This war is live streamed. Butcher smirks. Welcome to the age of content, he says. Newman glares at him, then looks back at the Emperor. Options, she asks. The Emperor thinks. I can approach from above, where the breach's influence is thinner, he says. If I stay at the edge of his field, I may be able to speak into his mind with what strength remains. If I can turn his hunger for silence toward the breach instead of the world, he might become a plug instead of a knife. And if you misjudge the edge, Mallory asks, if you step too close, then I fall, he says, and I am just a man in heavy armor. Homelander smiles faintly. And that's where I come in, he says. I don't need magic space ghost powers. I have actual muscles. I can carry you, or him, or both. He looks straight at the Emperor. You think I need my powers to kill someone? He says softly. The Emperor meets his gaze. "You need your powers to pretend you are special," he says, "to yourself." Homelander's jaw ticks. "Enough," Newman says. "You two are going to have to work together whether you like it or not. Emperor, you try your plug idea. Homelander, your job is to keep him away from the breach if that fails. Mallory's team will handle ground." She looks at Butcher and the others. "No soups on ground," she says. "Just you. If Mute's field expands, you're the only ones who'll still be able to move freely." Butcher grins. "We get to walk into a zone where gods fall down," he says. "Sounds like home." Mother's Milk shakes his head. "Sounds like a bad plan with no good ones," he says. "Which is our brand, I guess." Kimiko signs. She simply points at the map, then at herself, then makes a braking motion with her hands. Huey looks at the Emperor. "What happens to you," he asks, "if you get cut off from up there?" He means the Golden Throne without knowing the words. The Emperor thinks of terror. He sees, in the space behind his eyes, the great rotting palace, the mountain of machines around his dying body, the endless sea of candles lit by worshippers who have no idea how close their faith is to breaking. "If I lose the link," he says, "this shard of me will die. The breach may widen. The lighthouse that guides my people may dim. Ships in my time may be lost. Worlds may fall." Huey blinks. "So, no pressure," he says weakly. "Pressure is constant," the Emperor says. "Action is the only choice." Newman nods once. "All right," she says. "You have your targets. You have your teams. This isn't about ideology yet. This is about not letting reality rip open over New York. Move." The sky over the train yard is grey and low. Clouds hang like dirty cotton. The wind smells of oil and wet metal. Far off, sirens wail, but close by, it is strangely quiet. Mute sits on the hood of an abandoned car. He swings his feet like a bored kid. Around him, things decay faster. A nearby signal tower bends, its metal joints creaking, then snaps with a sharp crack. It falls in slow silence, wires spilling. He smiles. "There," he says to the empty air. "Better." He feels them before he sees them. The golden pressure in the distance, the cutting blue presence of Homelander, other smaller minds, full of fear and anger, moving along the ground. "You're late," he tells them. The helicopter sets down a kilometer away. Mallory and the boys drop into the gravel, weapons in hand. Butcher slings a heavy bag of shaped charges over his shoulder. Frenchie checks a jury-rigged device that looks like a car battery strapped to a box of nails and wires. "What's that?" Huey asks. "Experiments," Frenchie says. "If powers die around him, maybe something else lives. Sound, light, metal. We see what hurts the man when God stuff does not." Mother's Milk adjusts his vest. "Remember," he says, "we're not here to kill him if we don't have to. We're here to keep him away from the breach and out of Vought's hands." Butcher cracks his neck. "And if we have to kill him?" he asks. Mother's Milk sighs. "Then we live with it," he says. Kimiko signs, then points. She has heard a faint crunch of gravel ahead. Above, Homelander and the Emperor approach. Homelander cuts his speed at Mallory's order, hovering high above the yard. The Emperor floats beside him, cloak barely moving. From here, the place looks like an ink stain in his sight. "See that?" he murmurs. Homelander squints. He sees rails, cars, the tiny movement of Butcher's team. He does not see anything strange. "No," he says. "What?" "The hole," the Emperor says. "Where my sense of life should be. There is absence. There, in that ring of decay. That is his reach." Homelander studies the spot. He can't see the absence, but he can see its edge where things look. Wrong. Colourless. Flat. He shivers. How close can you get? He asks. The Emperor measures. I can approach within 50 meters before my powers start to thin, he says. Closer than 20, and they vanish. We must strike from the edge. Homelander smirks. That's your problem, he says. Mine work fine until I'm practically kissing him. He starts to dive. Do not rush, the Emperor warns. Homelander ignores him. Wind tears at his suit as he drops toward the yard. Cameras on distant roofs try to track him, then glitch when he passes over Mute's zone. The feed flickers. For a few seconds, the world loses sight of him. The Emperor follows slower, staying higher. Butcher's team spreads out through the rust and weeds. Huey's heart hammers. Every time he checks his phone, the screen shows static. The battery indicator makes no sense. 1 second it's full, the next it's empty. Then it's just a blank grey bar. I hate this, he mutters. Good, Butcher says. Means you're paying attention. They move between boxcars, using them as cover. Kimiko moves ahead, light on her feet. She hears Homelander's descent like distant thunder. She hears something else too, the soft scrape of shoes on gravel close. She sees Mute first. He sits on the car hood, watching the sky. His eyes are no longer black, but they are not normal. The irises are a washed-out grey like old film. His skin looks too smooth, like someone erased the shadows on it. Kimiko raises a hand, signalling. They all stop. Mute looks down at them. Hi, he says. No one answers. Was wondering when they'd send you lot, he adds. Soldiers, spies, angry little people with guns. It's always the same. Butcher steps out from behind a container. He keeps his rifle low. Name's Billy, he says. We don't have to fight. We just want to talk. Mute tilts his head. Everybody wants to talk, he says. Nobody ever wants to listen. You all too loud. He closes his eyes. Except the one in gold, he murmurs. He screams quieter than the rest. He screams across time. Impressive. Butcher glances up. Any time now, sunshine, he mutters. Homelander lands with a shockwave. Dust and rust fly. He stands between Mute and the direction of the breach, arms folded, cape flapping. The ground team staggers back from the blast. Hey there, buddy, Homelander says, smiling. You've caused a lot of trouble today. How about we go back to your nice safe room and... Mute opens his eyes. Homelander's words die. For the first time in his life, he does not feel the constant soft buzz of his own power in his skin. It is always there, a low hum, a sense of being different, stronger. Now, near Mute, that hum cuts off. His cape hangs limp. He blinks. He says. He jumps. He does not fly. He just jumps. He goes up 2 meters and falls back down, landing hard. Pain shoots up his knees. Everyone sees it. Butcher, Huey, Frenchie, Kimiko, MM, Mute. The cameras do not, because there are no cameras working here. Mute smiles. This is nice, he says. No noise, no hum, no fake God buzzing in my ears. Homelander stares at his own hands. He knows how to act. He has trained his whole life to fake control. He laughs, a little too loud. Okay, he says. Cute trick. Dampening field. Seen it before. He tries to heat his eyes. Nothing. His pupils do not glow. His vision stays normal. Sweat beads on his brow. But I don't need powers to snap your neck, he says, forcing the words out. He takes a step toward Mute. Mute hops off the car hood. He does not take a fighting stance. He just walks. Every step eats a bit more of Homelander's comfort. The suit feels lighter and heavier at the same time, as if the world has put its hands on his shoulders. He swings a punch. Mute ducks without effort. Homelander's fist smashes into the car. He expected steel to crumple like foil. Instead, his knuckles slam into solid metal that does not yield. He hears something crack. He yells. Pain flares in his hand. Real pain. White and sharp. He has felt pain before, but always dulled by his power. This is naked. Mute raises a hand and taps Homelander's chest. The tap is light. Homelander stumbles back as if hit by a truck. Air leaves his lungs. He drops to one knee, gasping. His cape tangles around his legs. Butcher watches, eyes wide. "Oh," he breathes. "Oh, that is pretty." The Emperor's voice comes down from above. "Do not let him draw you deeper into his field," he calls. "Withdraw." Homelander's pride will not let him. He pushes to his feet, hair messy, smile gone. His eyes burn with a different heat now. "I don't," he pants, "take orders from you." Mute tilts his head. "Why are you so scared of being small?" he asks. He looks at Butcher's team. "And you," he says, "why are you so eager to find a bigger monster to aim at the ones you hate?" Butcher bares his teeth. "I'm not aiming," he says. "I'm steering." Mute laughs. It is not a kind laugh. "I don't belong to any of you," he says. "Not Vought, not the government, not your pretty emperor. I belong to the quiet." He glances up, and the quiet wants to grow. The Emperor descends. He stops at the very edge of the invisible ring. As he passes through it, he feels a pull. His armor systems dim. The glow around him fades. The voices in the warp that usually whisper at the edges of his mind go faint. He can barely hear terror. He stands at a line only he can feel. One step, and he is still a god. Two, and he is just a man with old bones and a sharp mind. He raises his voice. "Mute," he calls. "Listen." Mute looks at him. His face goes still. "You felt them," the Emperor says. "The screams from my time, the prayers, the chaos. You felt the breach. Subconsciously, you walk toward it, because your field pushes back that noise. You think you can find peace by erasing everything loud." Mute shrugs. "Pretty much," he says. "You are wrong," the Emperor says. "The more you erase, the more the sea presses in to fill the space. If you keep walking this path, you will not find silence. You will become a gate that monsters use to step into this world unseen." Mute's eyes flicker. "I've seen monsters," he says. "Men in labs, supes in costumes, corporations in towers. If I erase them, what's left to walk through?" "Things worse than all of them," the Emperor says. He steps forward. His power thins. The world loses color at the edges. His awareness shrinks. He feels his mind go from the size of a star field to the size of a room. He keeps walking. Behind him, the breach strains. On Terra, servitors around the golden throne twitch. A tech priest feels the strain and chants faster. The Emperor's main body feels the shard slip. The warp notices. In the cruel sea outside real space, something ancient stirs. It has watched the Emperor for 10,000 years. It cannot enter his mind. It cannot break the throne. But here, in this thin copy of an Earth, a sliver of him walks close to a hole. It reaches, not with claws or teeth, with thought. A voice slips into the Emperor's mind. It is not a sound. It is an idea, a warm assurance. You could rest, it suggests. You could let go. Let this world burn for your people's safety. Close the breach from your side. Seal this timeline away like a rotten limb. You cannot save everyone. The thought tastes like his own. He has thought it before, in darker moments, when whole systems burn to keep the Imperium alive. Why not now? Why not cut this little world free? He takes another step. Mute feels the pressure too. He hears a different offer. You could erase gods, it hints. Not just supes, not just the Emperor. All of them. all loud things. You could be the quiet at the end of all. He smiles. Tempting, he whispers. The Emperor knows this voice. It is not one demon, not one god. It is the chorus of all of them, wearing his own doubts like a mask. Pride and despair together. He stops, power almost gone. He stands in the grey ring and looks at Mute. I will not be your scalpel, he says. Mute's smile fades. You would let your people die instead? He asks. Those ships lost, those worlds swallowed. In his mind, the whisper presses. They will die anyway, it says gently. You always knew that. Why bleed for strangers when your own sons starve for your light? He could do it. He could pull his shard back now, slam the breach shut from his side, pour all power into the Astronomicon. The fireworks in this little yard would mean nothing next to the billions he might save. He imagines Terra's sky clear for the first time in millennia. He imagines silence. He also imagines this Earth under Homelander's unchecked rule. Vought growing into a chaos cult. Compound V mutating into something that calls demons by accident. He sees a future where this world's screams reach the warp anyway, twisted and bitter. No, he says. The choice costs him. He stays in the field. His link to Terra thins to a thread. The breach shudders, its edge flickering. A hairline crack opens in the sky above the yard, like another wound inside the wound. Through it, something oily presses. Butcher sees it. Ah, he says. Goldie, we've got ghost slime. The Emperor grits his teeth. He cannot hold both the breach and his own mind alone anymore. He needs something else. Mute, he says. Listen to me. Mute crosses his arms. Why? He asks. Because you do not want to be their tool again, the Emperor says. Not Vaught's, not the things in the dark, not mine. You want quiet. True quiet is not erasing the world. It is stopping the noise at its source. He nods toward Homelander, toward the city. Help me end the machines that make gods out of hurt children, he says. Then I will help you find a place where you can live without noise. A place where your field keeps monsters out. Mute hesitates. He is not a mastermind. He is a man who spent most of his life in a box being poked by men with clipboards. The big voice in his head understands his pain but not his peace. The golden man in front of him understands his pain and something else. Duty. Why would I trust you? He asks. Do not, the Emperor says. Trust what you have seen. I killed one of your kind today because I had to. I burned his body so he could not be used. I will do the same to you if you become a gate. I will also bleed to prevent that. That is my promise. Mute's eyes study his face. The Emperor has no aura here but his own expression. He looks tired. Mute, for the first time, sees not a god, but an old soldier who has carried too much. Before he can answer, Homelander lunges again. Fear has turned to fury. He cannot stand being weak. He cannot stand watching this new, older, heavier man talk control out of his hands. He grabs Mute by the throat with both hands. You're mine, he snarls. You hear me? You belong to us, to Earth, to Vought, to me. Mute's eyes widen. His null field pulses outward. The Emperor feels the last thread to Terra snap. On the other side of time, the Astronomicon flares, then dims. For a second, every ship in the Imperium feels its guiding light flicker. The Emperor's main body jerks, fingers twitching on the throne. In the yard, the crack in the sky tears wider. Something steps through. It is not fully formed. It is a smear of red and gold and teeth, a shadow of a corn demon that has not yet found enough blood to take shape. It shrieks, not in sound, but in hunger. Mute gasps. He feels it like pressure on his skin. It does not reach for him. It reaches for the places he has not erased yet, for Homelander's bright soul, for the Emperor's old one, for the city beyond. Butcher curses. "Frenchie," he shouts. "Plan B." Frenchie hits the switch on his device. A huge speaker mounted on a nearby crane roars to life. It emits a pure, ugly tone, so loud it makes everyone flinch. Kimiko claps her hands over her ears. Huey winces. Mute staggers. His field jitters around him. "Sound," Frenchie yells over the noise. "His power eats the quiet, so we give him something else to chew." The demon shadow shivers. It cannot find a stable edge to latch on. One moment, the null eats its connection to the warp. The next, the blaring noise distracts Mute's focus. It flails. Homelander holds on to Mute's throat, both of them caught in the crossfire. "Turn it off," Homelander screams. "Turn it." The Emperor uses the opening. He lunges. There is nothing graceful about it. He is an old man in heavy armor moving faster than he should. He slams into Homelander and Mute, shoulder first. They all go down in the gravel. Mute's field pulses again. For a heartbeat, it expands enough to eat the sound too. The tone cuts off. The demon shadow vanishes, sucked back through the crack, as if a door slammed on it. The Emperor rolls, panting. He feels every old wound at once. His chest burns. His vision swims. He hears nothing from terror. No prayers, no tech priests, no astral light. For the first time since he took the throne, he is alone in his own head. That is the wound. Codex note. Severing a Primarch scale mine from its warp anchor inflicts a psychic wound deeper than any blade, leaving it open to silence and new voices. Mute coughs. He scrambles away on hands and knees, eyes wild. Homelander lies on his back, gasping for air he usually never needs, face red. "You hit me," Homelander wheezes at the Emperor. "You were choking the only man who can hurt the things I fight," the Emperor says. "I will do worse if you try again." Homelander's fingers dig into the gravel. He wants to grab the Emperor's throat and squeeze until something snaps. But he feels normal, human, weak. And around them, he hears the click of guns. Butcher and his team have formed a rough circle. Rifles, pointed inward. "Everybody stay very bloody still," Butcher says. "Soups, hands where I can see 'em. You," he nods at Mute. "Don't do the field thing again unless you want more ghosts falling out of the sky." Mute swallows. "I didn't mean to," he says. "I know," Butcher says. "That's the problem." The Emperor pushes himself up to one knee. His armor feels heavier. He tries to reach for the warp out of habit. It isn't there. The emptiness is like a phantom limb torn off. The whisper comes back. "See," it says softly. "See how quickly your careful balance falls apart? You cannot hold everything. You cannot save both. Let go. Close your eyes. Let the tide take them." He grits his teeth. "I refuse," he says aloud. "Refuse what?" Huey asks. "The easy way," the Emperor says. He looks at Mute. "Your field and my hold on the breach clash," he says. "When you pulse that, null, it cuts my link. You did not know. Now you do. You must learn control, or you will kill more than you save." Mute's shoulders slump. "I was never given control," he says. "They just turned the dial up and down. I'm not an expert. I'm a volume knob." "We can fix that," Mother's Milk says. "We get you far from the breach. We find someone who can help you learn your own limits. We keep you away from Vought and whatever. Demons those are." He nods at the fading crack. "We don't have experts on this," Huey says weakly. "We do now," Butcher says. He looks at the Emperor. "Goldie here's got a PhD in eldritch bollocks," he says. "He teaches. You listen." We keep you both alive long enough to aim at the right targets. Mute looks between them. You really think I can help? He asks. Not just turn everything off? The Emperor nods. You can stand at the edge of the breach and stop things from crossing, he says. Your field is a shield as much as a knife, but only if you choose to be a shield. Mute's gaze drifts to Homelander. Do I get to turn him off sometimes? He asks. Homelander glares. You try it again, he says hoarsely, and I will rip your arms off with my teeth. Mute smiles faintly. Tempting, he says. Above them, the crack in the sky shrinks. Not because the Emperor pulls it closed. He cannot feel it fully right now. It shrinks because something on the other side is pushing it shut from that end. On Terra, the Golden Throne roars. Alarms blare in forgotten languages. Tech priests chant until their voices crack. The Emperor's main body, bound to the chair, opens its dead eyes for a heartbeat and looks across time. He sees his shard in a rusted yard, kneeling. He sees a world that is not his, full of noisy gods and fragile people. He sees the threat. He sends one thing, not a full message. There is not enough power, only an image. The shard in the yard sees it, a vision of the Imperial Palace cracking, a wave of warp fire rushing out, a billion souls in his realm screaming as the breach in this strange earth acts like a knife, cutting into the barrier around Terra from the side. He sees his own throne collapsing. He hears a single thought from his own deeper mind. Come. It is not an order. It is a plea. Then the vision breaks. The crack in the sky snaps shut for now, leaving only the original smaller breach above Vought Tower still locked in place. The Emperor sucks in a breath. He's back in the yard. Gravel under his knees, human eyes on him. The whisper of chaos still somewhere behind his own thoughts. He looks at the others. Someone above me has taken notice, he says. Above you? Huey repeats. You mean, like, your boss? In a way, the Emperor says. My other self, the one on the throne, my jailer and my prisoner. He shows me what will happen if we fail. He nods toward the city. We must go to the breach, he says. We must speak with the source of my power while I still have any. I need new limits, new rules, if I am to stay here at all. But we still have problems here, Mallory says over the radio. Vought, Soups, Mute. Mute comes with us, the Emperor says. He is too dangerous to leave near your world's toys, and he is the only shield I might have when I stand close to the breach. Mute blinks. I didn't sign up for a field trip, he says. Do you want to sit in another box while Vought tries to figure out how you work? Butcher asks. Because that's the alternative, Sunshine, Mute thinks. He remembers the box, the endless tests, the doctor's fake smiles. He looks up at the sky, where the wound still glows faintly above the tower in the distance. I'll go, he says, if I get to punch at least one god on the way. Butcher grins. Stick with us, he says. You'll have options. Homelander pushes himself to his feet. He is still breathing hard. I'm not done here, he snaps. We can't just leave. People saw me fall. We have PR to manage. We have operations. Vought needs to understand that their control is over, the Emperor says. If I go to the breach and fail, your world may burn regardless. If I succeed, the rules change. Either way, your brand does not matter. Homelander's face goes red. I am not a brand, he spits. Tell that to your commercials, Starlight says through clenched teeth. She has arrived at the edge of the yard, staying out of Mute's field. She watched the whole fight from there. Homelander rounds on her. Careful, he growls. She does not flinch. You were useless in there, she says. For once. just like the rest of us when we're stripped of the lies we tell ourselves. Maybe that's good. He steps toward her. The Emperor steps between them. Even without warp power, his presence is large. We do not fight each other here, he says. You will all have your chance to argue about freedom and control when the sky is not trying to eat you. Starlight glances at him. So what? She asks. You go stand under the big hole, talk to your own ghost, and come back with a new rulebook for our lives. Yes, he says simply. Mother's Milk crosses his arms. And what if the new rulebook says we all have to wear uniforms and pray to you? He asks. Then you will have to decide whether to obey or resist, the Emperor says, as you have with every ruler you've ever had. He looks at Newman's drone camera, hovering at the edge of the null field, lens whirring. Tell your leaders, he says, that this world has been noticed by more than me. They can cling to their small games, or they can help me keep the bigger monsters out. I will not ask again. The drone transmits his words. In the bunker, Newman watches, face pale. Behind her, on another screen, a live feed shows something that makes her blood run cold. The Astronomicons flicker, captured by a warp-sensitive satellite that should not exist in this timeline, its readouts jerry-rigged by a black project. The light on that feed dimmed when the Emperor fell in the yard. It is back, but weaker. She understands something then. If the Emperor dies here, it is not just this world that pays. Another age, another empire, billions more. She rubs her eyes. Up to now, she says softly to herself, an alien god, a rogue eraser, and our own broken heroes nearly tore a hole big enough for monsters to crawl through. And we still have to go argue with a throne. She straightens. Get me a secure line to the president, she says, and to Ashley, and to the UN. If this man is taking a field trip to his personal heaven, we need to decide how much leash to give him. In the train yard, the wind shifts. The Emperor stands. He feels the wound in his soul like a cold weight. No warp whispers, except the faint hiss of chaos trying to pour into the gap. No comfort from terror, only his own will. He turns toward the city. Escort, he says. Butcher, Mallory, Starlight, Homelander, Mute, and the rest all look at each other. Some see a road to judgment. Some see a chance to tilt to God. Some see a suicide mission. They start walking anyway. The pilgrimage to the breach and to the supreme authority waiting beyond it has begun. The convoy leaves the train yard at dusk. 3 armored trucks, 2 black SUVs, 1 military helicopter overhead. Inside the lead truck, the Emperor sits on a bench bolted to the floor. The metal groans under his weight. Across from him sits Mute, cuffed but not chained to anything. Beside Mute, Butcher lounges with his rifle across his knees. Kimiko rests with her eyes half closed. Huey clutches a first aid kit like a shield. The truck rattles along a closed-off highway. Outside, police cars block entrances. National Guard soldiers in helmets stand at intersections, rifles ready. People gather at tape lines, phones raised, trying to glimpse the gods passing by. In the second truck, Mother's Milk checks on a row of stretchers. Injured cops. A few civilians from the first breach shock. A young Soup who tried to help in the panic and got crushed by falling glass. Medics move between them, wrapping bandages, tapping IV bags. This is the medic bay now. A rolling, loud, too bright ward. The Emperor watches Mute's breathing. The null field is pulled tight around the man. Like a cloak, he is finally holding close. It does not reach the truck walls. Electronics work here. The engine hums. The Emperor's sense of the world is still weaker than before, but not gone. He can feel the breach ahead like a toothache. "You all right, Sunshine?" Butcher asks him. The question is pointed at Mute, but his eyes flick to the Emperor as well. Mute shrugs. "Quieter in here," he says. "Not as quiet as I like, but better." He glances at the wounded. "I did that," he adds softly. "Vought did that," Mother's Milk says from the doorway, hearing him. "You're a piece on their board. You didn't choose the game." "But I moved," Mute says. The Emperor nods. "You did," he says. "Now you move again, towards something better." Huey looks at him. "Better for who?" he asks. "You keep saying things like mankind and the Imperium. Here, that just sounds like another company logo." The Emperor holds his gaze. "Better for the billions who cannot punch through walls," he says. "Better for children who never asked to be born glowing blue. Better for the old woman who lit a candle for me on her stoop today." Huey remembers that woman. He saw her in a live feed, tiny and stubborn with her little flame in the storm. "How do you know about her?" he asks. "I felt her prayer," the Emperor says. "Even cut off from my throne, I feel some hearts when they burn bright." Butcher snorts. "Careful, mate," he says. "You keep talking like that, you'll have a whole bloody church by morning." The Emperor looks past him. Outside the small armoured window, they pass a crowd at a barricade. Some hold signs with Homelander's face on them. Some already have rough printed posters of the Emperor pulled from screenshots. "Golden King," one sign reads. "Protector," says another. "Go home," says a third. The Emperor's face stays calm. "I do not seek churches," he says. "I seek order." "That's what every church says," Butcher mutters. In the helicopter above, Starlight sits strapped in beside Mallory. Homelander floats outside, keeping pace, arms folded. He prefers to fly alone, where blades and metal cannot remind him of limits. Below, the trucks roll toward Vought Tower. Starlight looks at Mallory. "You really trust him?" she asks, nodding toward the golden glow visible even from here. Mallory shakes her head. "I don't trust anyone with that much power," she says. "I trust that he hates the same people I hate. For now, that's enough to walk beside him." "And after?" Starlight asks. "After, we see whether he loves control more than justice," Mallory says. "That's where most heroes fall." She looks at Starlight. "You grew up in a church," she says. "You know what it looks like when people worship a man instead of God." Starlight flinches. "Yeah," she says. "They start ignoring all the bad stuff. They say he's doing his best while he hurts people." "Well," Mallory says, "your old church never had to deal with demons falling out of the sky. Maybe this time you tell the truth from the start." Starlight looks down at her own glowing hands. "Truth is messy," she says. "People don't like it." Mallory nods. "They like living," she says. "Make that the message." The trucks pass a small chapel. It sits on a corner near the river. Cheap brick. A simple cross. The convoy does not stop, but the Emperor feels a pulse from inside. A few people kneel there praying to a god they have always known. One old priest looks up as the golden light passes. For a heartbeat, his mind touches the Emperor's. He sees a different throne. He sees a man nailed to a chair of wires and tubes instead of wood. He sees crowds praying under banners with a double-headed eagle instead of a cross. The priest flinches. "Lord have mercy," he whispers. The Emperor feels the whisper. He knows he is not that Lord, but some part of him answers anyway. He bows his head in the truck for a moment. Huey blinks. "Are you praying?" he asks. "I am listening," the Emperor says, "to a man asking his God to protect him from me." Huey swallows. "What does his God say?" he asks. Nothing, the Emperor says. Silence is also an answer. The convoy reaches the cordon around Vought Tower. The building rises like a glass dagger into the wounded sky. Above it, the breach still glows, smaller than before but hard and bright. Golden light spills around its edges. Lines of soldiers, police and Vought security form a ring. Inside, a cleared zone waits. In the middle of it stands a mobile command center, a big grey box full of radios, screens and nervous people. This is their chapel now. Inside the command center, Newman stands at the head of a long table. Generals, Ashley, a few UN observers and some techs crowd around. On one wall, a large screen shows the convoy's approach. On another, a set of readings from the breach flicker in red and green. Status, Newman asks. The breach is stable for now, a scientist says. It's like a bubble anchored to something on the other side. When the Emperor weakened before, it tried to grow. Since then, it's been waiting. Waiting for what? Ashley asks, voice too high. For more energy, the scientist says. Or for a weakness. We're not sure. Newman nods. Get me audio with the Emperor as soon as he's in. Range, she says. And turn off any broadcast that even thinks about turning this into a Vought special. Ashley opens her mouth. Newman looks at her. Try me, she says softly. Ashley closes her mouth. The trucks pull into the cleared zone. Soldiers part. Cameras on cranes pull back, leaving only a few long-range lenses. At Newman's order, most of the feeds go dark to the public. This next part is not for live streams. The Emperor steps out of the lead truck. The ground seems to steady under his feet. He looks up at the breach. It glows like a wound held shut by a bandage he tied himself. Homelander floats down beside him. He has recovered his powers now that he is away from Mute. The hum is back under his skin. He smiles again, mask restored. Mute steps out, flanked by Butcher and the boys. His field is tight, a small bubble around his body. The soldiers nearby feel a slight static in the air when he passes, like the moment before a TV loses signal. Newman walks out of the command center to meet them. Mallory, Starlight, and a small team of agents join her. They all look up at the breach. Last chance to back out, Newman says. No, the Emperor says. Homelander shakes his head. Not my style, he says. Mute looks up. I want to see what's been screaming in my dreams, he says. Butcher grins. Field trip it is, he says. They move into position. The Emperor walks to the very base of the tower, where the air feels thin. Homelander hovers above him, ready. Mute stands close enough that his field touches the edge of the breach's influence, but not enough to wipe it out. Starlight, Butcher, Mallory, and the others stay at ground level, just outside the strange zone. Newman stands with them, headset on, eyes never leaving the figures above. The Emperor lifts his hands. He reaches up, not with muscles, but with what remains of his mind's strength. He grabs the edges of the breach like a man gripping a wound to stop it from opening further. Light flares. The air hums. The city around them feels a pressure like a storm front rolling in. Opening a slit, the Emperor says through gritted teeth. Not all the way, just enough for my will to pass. The breach changes. From the outside, it looks like the circle of light stretches into a thin vertical line, like a doorway opening just a crack. Through that crack, they see something impossible. A wall of gold, towering, carved with eagles and skulls and saints. Beyond it, the hint of a huge hall, filled with ranks of shining armored figures. Is that another planet? Huey breathes. Not planet, the Emperor says. Palace. The world shifts. For those standing close, the Emperor, Homelander, Mute, and, in a lesser way, Starlight and Butcher. The ground falls away. The sky folds. For a heartbeat, they are standing in two places at once, New York and Terra, the throne world of the Imperium. They step through. To everyone watching from a distance, it looks like they vanish into the crack. In truth, they walk into a huge hall. The air here feels heavy with incense and old dust. Light filters down from high windows, pale and holy. The floor is black stone, polished by 1,000,000 feet. Ahead, a long path leads toward a raised platform. On both sides of the path stand giants. Adeptus Custodes, 10-foot-tall warriors in gold armor brighter than the Emperor's shard here. Each holds a long spear with a blade that hums. Their helmets have plumes like burning comets. They are his bodyguards from his own time. Here they are echoes. Some are real minds projected through the breach. Some are warped phantoms shaped by his memory. Still, they all kneel when they see him. "Majesty," one says. His voice is deep and full of reverence. Homelander stares, throat tight. He thought he knew what power looked like. Billboards, ratings, the way everyone in a room turns toward him. This is different. This is a whole people who have built every stone of their world around one man. "Wow," he whispers. Butcher whistles softly. "Now that's a security detail," he says. Mute shivers. Here, his field does something strange. Normally, it cancels the hum of power. Here, it makes a bubble of clear air in a place thick with psychic fog. The custodies can feel it. Some shift a step back, uneasy. Behind the custard stand other figures. Pale women with shaved heads and blank eyes. They wear bone-white armor and carry daggers at their belts. Sisters of Silence. Blanks, like Mute, but from the Emperor's age. Their very presence pushes the warp away. Mute looks at them. They look back. For the first time in his life, he feels seen by people who are like him. Not lab rats, not freaks. Weapons, yes, but weapons that chose. "What are they?" he asks. "The Sisters of Silence," the Emperor says. "Women born like you, with a field that kills psychic noise. They are my right hand when I face demons." One sister steps forward. Her face is calm. She signs with quick, fluid gestures. Mute frowns. "I don't know that language," he says. The Emperor nods. "They speak with hands because their voices kill psychic work," he says. "She welcomes you. She warns you. If you lose control here, she will cut your throat before you tear the throne open." Mute nods slowly. "Fair," he says. The path leads onward. At its far end, a massive chair looms. The Golden Throne. It is not a simple seat. It is a machine the size of a cathedral, made of gold, stone, bone, and wires. Tubes run from it into walls and floors. The air around it shimmers with heat and warp light. On the throne sits a corpse. At least, it looks like one. A man's body, decayed and bandaged, wearing armor like a rusted version of the Emperor's. Machines pierce his flesh. Ancient cables run into his skull. His face is a skull with scraps of skin, yet a faint light glows behind his eye sockets. Homelander takes a step back. "What the hell?" he breathes. Butcher's smile dies. "Now that," he mutters, "is what happens when you stay in the job too long." The Emperor stands at the foot of the throne. He looks up at himself, his shard and his core, face to face. The hall grows silent. Even the custards seem to fade. The air thickens. For everyone else, sound dims. For the Emperor, an inner voice roars awake. He hears himself speak inside his own skull. "You have come far for a ghost," the throne voice says. "It is not majestic. It is tired." The shard answers aloud and inside. "I came because this world's wound tugs at our light," he says. Because my presence here weakens your hold on the Astronomicon. Because monsters took my doubts and tried to use them against me. The throne voice chuckles, dry as dust. You have always been easy to tempt with duty, it says. Offer you a choice between one world and 1 billion, and you bleed for both until you fall. The shard's jaw tightens. Do you tell me to return, he asks, to let this timeline go? The throne's sockets glow a little brighter. No, the voice says. I show you the cost, and I show you the path. You are not a man anymore. You are a function, a bridge. You can stand in 2 realities at once for a time. But you need anchors. It shows him images. Mute standing at the edge of the breach, field tight, keeping the warp from rushing in too hard. Homelander, a bright, dangerous soul, turned outward for once, using his strength to punch demons instead of planes. Humans, Starlight, Mallory, Butcher, Newman, running lines of control and truth under them. You cannot hold this alone, the throne voice says. Share the weight or drop it. Homelander hears none of this. He only feels a pressure in his chest, like standing too close to a huge engine. He sees the way the custodes watch the Emperor's shard and the corpse on the throne. They worship. No cameras, no PR, no sponsors. They kneel because they believe, not because someone told them it tested well with focus groups. He feels a knife twist in his ego. This is what real gods get, he thinks. Not contracts, not ratings. Loyalty and fear that last 10,000 years. He hears a whisper near his ear. Not from the throne, from a different place. It sounds like him. You could have that, it says. You could stand here instead of him. All you'd have to do is stop pretending you care about these ants. Take the power he offers, then kill him when he's weak. He turns his head. Standing a few steps away is a man in gold armor, just like the Emperor. But the face under the helmet is Homelander's. Mirror Foe B has come. It is a warp image, a hybrid of the Emperor's armor and Homelander's grin. Its eyes glow red and gold. Its cloak is a shredded American flag with a double-headed eagle on it. Only some of them see it. Homelander sees it most clearly. The Emperor's shard sees it too, as a shape in the corner of his soul. The throne voice scowls. Ah, it says, the tyrant you could be. The mirror steps closer to Homelander. Look at them, it murmurs. All these big golden boys kneeling, all these blanks ready to die, all for a corpse that doesn't move. Why not for you? Homelander swallows. No one can hear you, he whispers. Can they? The mirror laughs softly. They hear what they want, it says. You've been giving them a show for years. Imagine it with real weight behind it. No more focus groups, just orders. It gestures at the throne. You sit, it says. Your beams blaze across time. Your brand becomes a religion. No more begging for love. They give it and fear you at the same time. Homelander's hands twitch. For a moment, he sees it. Himself on that chair, cape draped, eyes burning. Armies marching under banners with his symbol. World shaking when he frowns. The Emperor's shard senses the shift. He turns from the throne to Homelander. He sees the mirror foe too now, clearly. It looks like his own doubt wearing Homelander's face. It is his flaw, pride, control, the urge to rule for their own good, given a new body. Enough, the Emperor says. The mirror laughs. Is it? It asks. You know what this world is, corrupt, rotting. You could fix it in a decade if you throw away these toys' games. Be honest. You've thought it since you arrived. Take command, burn Vought, chain Newman. Use Mute as a leash. Take this soup as your sword. Homelander straightens. He looks between the mirror and the real Emperor. Tell me you haven't thought it, the mirror says to the shard. Tell me you haven't looked at these broken systems and wanted to tear them down and build a proper imperium here, early for once. The Shard does not lie. I have, he says. I always do. Every new world. It is my nature to bring order, to crush chaos, to rule so no one else can do worse. The mirror smiles. There, it says. See, we're the same. Only I don't pretend it's for their sake. It's for ours. It turns back to Homelander. Join me, it says. You and me. Emperor and War Master in one body. We throw out the corpse. We seal the breach how we like. We make this earth the core of a new imperium, free of his old mistakes. Homelander looks at the throne. The corpse does not move. The voice in his head is his own. He thinks of Vought, of Ashley screaming about ratings, of Newman pretending to care about the little people while popping heads in secret. He thinks of the crowd's love, always ready to turn if he slips. He thinks of the Emperor looking down at him like a misbehaving child. He wants to say yes. The Emperor sees it. He steps closer. Homelander, he says, voice quiet but hard. Do you know what that chair costs? Homelander does not look at him. I see power, he says. You see the surface, the Emperor says. You do not see the 10,000 years of agony, the billions of souls burned every day to keep me alive, the sons I killed, and the worlds I sacrificed to cement that rule. You do not see the nights I long to die and cannot. Homelander snaps his head toward him. Spare me the sad king story, he says. You had a job. You did it. Now you want a medal. I want you to understand the trap, the Emperor says. My flaw brought me here. The belief that only I can save mankind. It made me build this throne. It made me chain myself to it. This thing. He nods at the mirror. Is that flaw free of duty? It offers you crowns without chains. That is a lie. The throne voice rumbles. For once, it speaks out loud. Homelander hears a voice inside his head that is not his own, and not the mirror's. It is deep and old and so tired. You are a child, it says. You seek love and fear in the same breath. If you sit here, you will get neither. Only work, endless work. No one will ever hold you again. No one will see you as a man, only as a function. Homelander's throat tightens. He sees himself as he is. A damaged boy in a lab, staring at a blank wall. A young man ripping a plane in half because it is easier than showing fear. A god on TV who still checks the numbers after each crisis. He teeters. The mirror roars. Do not listen to him, it snarls. He wants you as a pet. You can be his partner. We can cut him out. It lunges. For a moment, reality stutters. The hall twists. The custodes blur. The Sisters of Silence draw their blades, stepping forward. Starlight cries out. Butcher lifts his rifle on reflex. The mirror foe rushes at the throne, blade raised, body shining. The Emperor moves. His powers are still thin here. The breach and Mute's nearby field make the warp for him like a shallow pool instead of a sea. But this is his house. He steps in front of the mirror. Their blades clash. Golden light flares. It is not a long fight. The mirror is not a real being. It is a test. It swings with all the fury of unchecked pride, all the hunger for control both he and Homelander carry. It aims for the throne, for the crown. The Emperor does not parry for victory. He parries for choice. He takes the mirror's blows on his armor, each impact shaking the hall. Sparks fly. Homelander feels the weight of each strike like it hits his own bones. See what you could be, the mirror hisses at the Emperor. Unbound, no guilt, no sacrifice, just pure will. Admit you want it. I do, the Emperor says. I always will. He steps inside the mirror's guard. He lets the next strike glance off his pauldron, and slides his own blade up under the edge of the mirror's chest plate. Not to kill, because it cannot be killed, but to pin. He holds it there. "You are my flaw," he says, "not my master." The hall shakes. Above terror, the warp howls. A bolt of pure force crackles down from the unseen heights of the palace, not from the chaos gods, but from the throne's failing machinery, dumping excess energy. It strikes between the Emperor and the mirror. They are thrown apart. The mirror's form flickers. In that moment, the throne voice booms in every mind present. "Reach the breach," it says. "Bring him back. Bind your pride to law." The order is clear. The cosmic sign has come. A custodes steps forward, spear raised. "We cannot sustain this link, sire," he says to the shard. The light fades. Return before both worlds fall dark. The Sisters of Silence move close to Mute. They feel his field destabilizing in the presence of so much warp pressure. One places a hand on his shoulder, grounding him with her own trained will. Mute gasps. He feels a strange calm from her. The mirror screams. "Cowards," it roars. "Run back to your chains. I will wait in every shadow of your choices." It dissolves. Not gone, just pushed back into the Emperor's mind. Homelander sinks to one knee. His hands shake. He wanted it. He almost said yes. He hates that the Emperor saw it. He hates that the throne called him a child. The Emperor looks down at him. "You still have a choice," he says. "You are not on the chair yet." Homelander looks up. "For now," he spits. The hall begins to fade. Details smear. The custards bow one by one. The sisters cross their blades over their chests. The throne's light pulses, weaker. One last thought passes from core to shard. "You may stay," the throne voice says, "with limits. You will not build an imperium here. You will not crown yourself. You will bind the strongest of them with oaths, not chains. You will share the cost with them every time you touch the warp." The shard bows his head. "As you will," he says. He turns, cloak swirling, and walks back down the path. Mute walks beside him, flanked by sisters. Homelander follows, seething. Butcher and Starlight move like people stepping off a roller coaster, legs unsteady. The wall of gold rears up again. The crack narrows. They step through. They are back in New York. To everyone watching, they were gone for only seconds. The breach above Vought Tower flares, then steadies. The Emperor staggers. Homelander catches himself in the air, breathing hard. Mute drops to one knee, hands on the ground. Newman's headset crackles. "Did it work?" a general demands. "What happened? Did you talk to your God?" The Emperor lifts his head. His eyes glow brighter than before, but the light is tighter, controlled. Lines of strain mark his face. "I spoke to myself," he says, "to my core, to the throne that holds back the warp in my time. It gave me a mandate and a chain." Mallory steps closer. "Explain," she says. He looks at Mute. "His field is now tied to the breach," the Emperor says. "As long as he stays near it, his null will keep it from widening. My power can shape and seal what leaks through, but each time I do, it burns part of me." He looks at Homelander. "And you," he says, "are bound by oath. You can stand where I cannot. You can hit things I cannot see. When I call, you must answer. You felt the throne. You know what happens if this world tears mine open from the side." Homelander's jaw clenches. "I don't take orders," he says. "You do now," the Emperor says quietly. "Or you doom a billion worlds, including this one." Newman steps between them. "Slow down," she says. "We need clear rules. What can you do now? What can't you do? What does it cost us?" Power scaling. Interlude 2. The Emperor can now touch the breach without tearing it open, but only by sharing the load with Mute's null field, which must stay anchored nearby. Each time he uses large warp power on this Earth, like city-wide shields or mine battles, he drains the Astronomicon a little, risking ships and worlds in his own time. Homelander is bound by a psychic echo of the throne's will. If he defies direct calls to fight warp threats, his powers will flicker and pain will rack him. But in normal matters, he is still free. Mute's lifespan shortens every time he flares his field too wide. The sisters' training can help him control it, but they must stay close. No one here can make new breaches. They can only work with this one, or die trying to close it. The Emperor speaks those limits in simpler words. My strength here is no longer mine alone, he says. Every big act costs me and my Imperium far away. Mute must be my shield. Homelander must be my sword when the warp bites. Your leaders must decide when those costs are worth paying. Mallory nods slowly. So this isn't you just doing whatever you want, she says. It's you asking for permission, sometimes. Yes, he says, I will still act when I must, but I cannot afford to burn whole star systems every time a soup throws a tantrum. Butcher snorts. Shame, he says. Would have been a hell of a show. Starlight looks up at the breach. So what now? She asks. We have a tiny piece of hell over our biggest media company. We have a god on a leash, kind of. We have Homelander on a shorter leash, and we have a man who erases noise chained to a spot. Mute grins weakly. Chained, he says. You gonna nail my feet to the pavement? One of the sisters steps through the crack behind them. Only the Emperor and Mute notice at first. She walks to Mute's side and stands there, armor faintly humming. You will not be alone, the Emperor says. I have been alone on a throne long enough to know that kills more than it saves. She and her order will teach you how to live with your field. You will guard the breach. You will also sleep, eat and choose, as much as you can. Mute looks at the sister. She nods once. All right, he says. I'll be your plug. But if anyone tries to lock me in a box again, I'll unplug. Butcher smiles. We'll help you with that, he says. Newman raises a hand. Hold up, she says. We're talking about foreign forces, operating on US soil now. Golden space warriors, silent knife ladies, warp whatever. We need agreements. We need laws. The Emperor nods. Yes, he says. And you will write them with me, with Mallory, with those who have scars from your soups, with those who still believe in some kind of justice. That is the only way this works. He looks around at the gathered humans, at Newman, who hides her own power, at Mallory, who carries the weight of dead kids, at Butcher, who wants blood, at Starlight, who wants truth, at Huey and MM and Frenchie and Kimiko, who stand in the background but hold more courage than most who sit at tables. You will judge me, he says, often, loudly. That is your right. Homelander laughs once. Good luck with that, he says. They couldn't even keep me in line. You really think they can keep you? The Emperor looks up at the breach. Not alone, he says. But now you know my limits, and I know yours. The pilgrimage is over. The judgment has begun. The next choices will decide whether this world becomes a new kind of Imperium, a new kind of prison, or something neither the Emperor nor his enemies have ever seen. The air above Vought Tower still shimmers. Night has fallen. The city is a sea of lights. Helicopters circle farther out now, like wary sharks kept at bay by law and fear. The breach glows overhead like a crooked halo. On the roof, they wait. The Emperor stands at the center, feet planted, cloak hanging still. Mute sits cross-legged near a marked circle of paint. a rough, safe zone drawn by techs after many tests. A Sister of Silence stands at his side, her blank aura helping him hold his field tight. Homelander floats at the edge of the roof, arms folded, cape stirring in the wind. Starlight leans on a low wall, watching the city. Butcher and Mother's Milk stand near a tripod, where Frenchie and Huey set up a crude monitor tied to analog instruments that still work near mute. Newman, Mallory, and Ashley watch from a lower balcony, close enough to intervene, far enough to duck if something explodes. The Emperor looks up at the breach. "It is time," he says. "Time for what?" Homelander asks. "For the choice," the Emperor says. "The throne has shown me limits. Now it will show me paths. I will not make this decision alone in my head. You will see what I see." "Wait," Huey says. "We get a vote?" "You get knowledge," the Emperor says. "What you do with it is your own choice." He raises his hands. Mute closes his eyes. His field flares, not outward but upward, making a cone of null around the breach's edge. The warp pressure there stops pushing outward and starts sliding along the cone. The Emperor steps under it. For a moment, everything is very still. Then the sky opens. It does not rip like before. It peels like a curtain. Above them, instead of clouds and stars, they see 3 roads hanging in the dark. Each is made of images and moments, strung together like scenes from a movie. A deep, tired voice rumbles from somewhere beyond. Not from the breach, from the same place as before. The throne. 3 paths, it says. See and choose. First, the return. The roof melts around them. They stand in orbit high above Earth, looking down at the blue and green planet. Then they see the breach snap shut in a flash of gold. The shard of the Emperor dissolves into light and flies back through a tiny hole, vanishing. On Terra, the Astronomicon flares bright. Ships in the Imperium that were drifting suddenly have their beacon back. A captain on a far cruiser laughs, tears in his eyes. "He is strong again," he says. The light is brighter than before. But on the boy's Earth, time runs forward. Vought survives. Homelander, shaken for a while by his moment of weakness, doubles down. With no Emperor to match him, he spins the train yard into a private story. Only a few know he fell. He takes back control of his image. He leans harder on Newman. They cut deals in dark rooms. Mute disappears into a black site again. Maybe Vought, maybe Newman, maybe some secret military lab. He sits alone in a concrete room, field pulled tight, keeping the world quiet for the people who jail him. Butcher and the boys keep fighting. Their wins are small. A lab exposed here, a soup scandal there. But without the breach as a clear threat, people forget how close they came to something worse than Homelander. They go back to liking the show more than the truth. Years pass. Compound V spreads in secret. New soups are born with stranger powers. One girl can open doors between places when she screams. One boy can eat fear and turn it into light. No one guides them. No one understands the warp behind it. One day, a soup loses control in the wrong place. A portal opens, not to Terra, but to the warp itself. Something slips through. Not a daemon in full, but a sliver. Enough. Cities burn. Soups die. Normal people die. Newman dies with her head exploding from the inside, not by her own choice this time. Homelander fights until his eyes bleed and his cape burns, but he cannot punch madness. In the warp, the Chaos Gods laugh. On Terra, the Emperor's main body holds the Astronomicon strong and bright, but he cannot reach this world anymore. Its scream is just one more distant cry in a sea of horrors. The vision fades. Second, the free agent. They see the breach widen. This time, the Emperor's shard pulls away from the throne. The link snaps like a cut cord. The Astronomicon flickers, then steadies at a lower level. Some ships are lost. Some worlds go dark. But the beacon does not die. All that power that used to flow into the shard stays in terror. The shard here is free. On Earth, the Emperor stands taller. His armor glows brighter. The halo behind his head expands. The warp bends around him even without Mute's help. He does not need permission now. He takes Vought apart in days. Black sights explode in golden. Lances. Labs are melted into slag with the scientists' sins burned into the walls. Files rain down over cities like digital ash. People see everything. The lies, the dead, the experiments. Soups panic. Many surrender. Others fight. Homelander tries to stand beside the Emperor, smiling for cameras. The Emperor allows it for a while, then shows the crowd the plane. The recording. The screams. He projects it in the sky above every major city. The world sees Homelander leave them to die. His approval dies with them. Disgust replaces love. Fear remains. Riots explode. The Emperor steps in. He creates councils. He gives Mallory, Newman, and others limited roles as local overseers. But his word is law. He uses Sisters of Silence to find and bind every psychic-born soup. He turns Mute and others like him into a new order of blanks. He wears his ethic motto openly now. Mankind must endure whatever the cost, his followers chant. At first it feels like justice. Corrupt leaders are dragged into the light. Soups who abuse their power are executed or bound. Children with V in their veins are taken out of labs and put into strict schools. But the cost grows. The new order never ends. Every threat is met with more control. Every fear becomes reason for another decree. People start to vanish for warp-tainted thoughts. A small church that refuses to change its prayers is burned as heresy. Homelander survives. He kneels. He bends his head to the Emperor and swears an oath to serve. He becomes the bright sword of this new Imperium. He smiles on banners now, not as a free god, but as a favorite weapon. Somewhere under a ruined chapel, Butcher leads a small group in the dark. They blow up a data center. They try to smuggle kids out of a training academy. They are called terrorists now. Their faces are on wanted posters with the words heretic and traitor. The Emperor sleeps less and less. Each time he uses his power here, the warp presses harder. The Chaos Gods throw new nightmares at him. His pride grows with each order he gives. One day, a demon prince rises inside a soup he thought he could control. The fight that follows kills millions. He wins. Again. The Imperium of Two Earth stands. At a cost. The vision fades. Third, the sanctioned servant. This time, the breach stays as it is now. Small, hard, locked. The throne's link remains. The Astronomicon stays weak but alive. Ships in Terra's sky limp instead of drift. Tech priests sweat over consoles. In the halls, inquisitors write new lines into thick books. On Earth, things change slower. The Emperor takes part in a public hearing. He sits, not stands, at a table in a neutral hall. Cameras record. Newman sits across from him. Mallory sits beside her. Butcher leans against a back wall, arms crossed. Starlight stands near a mic, hands shaking but steady. They lay out his powers, his limits, and his past. They do not hide his sins. Worlds burned, sons killed, dictatorships run in his name. They show images from his own Imperium. Hive cities choked with smog. Lines of soldiers marching to die against aliens, priests whipping crowds to keep them praying. He does not deny it. I did these things, he says in the vision. Some out of need, some out of pride. I will not pretend the difference is always clear. They write a charter, a binding law. It says, the Emperor's shard may only act alone, without human agreement. When warp creatures break into this world, or when a soup has clearly become a gate, all other uses of his higher power must be cleared by a joint council. The council has chairs for many: Newman, Mallory, Starlight, Mother's Milk, a Sister of Silence, a custodian envoy, a representative elected from normal citizens. Even Ashley gets a non-voting seat to bring the media angle, whether they like it or not. Mute's role is fixed. He is Anchor Primus. He must stay near the breach most of the time, but he gets shifts, time away, friends, training. Other blanks are found, not made, never made, and brought to help share the load. Homelander's place changes. He is called Sword of the Breach. When warped things come through, he must fight. If he refuses, pain will rack him and his powers will stutter, as agreed. In all other matters, he remains a citizen under law. He is not the Emperor's pet. He is not Vaught's top product. He is a man under terms. He hates it. He also cannot fully escape it. Vought is cut into pieces. Some parts go down hard: black sites, secret labs, corrupted board members. Others are broken up and sold. A few branches, small ones that actually protect people, survive under new names and heavy watch. The world does not become a shining utopia. Politicians still lie. Soups still mess up. Some warp spawns still slip through cracks. But each time, there are systems. There are hearings. There is a place where normal people can speak and be heard. Butcher still works his plans. He always will. Yet in this future, he sometimes walks into the council chamber and yells at the Emperor to his face instead of bombing labs in the dark. Sometimes the Emperor listens. Terra gets something too. In the vision, the sisters train Mute's kind. They learn new ways to shape null fields. The Inquisition studies Compound 5 and finds strange, useful edges. A few worlds in the Imperium get small anchors like this Earth's breach to bleed warp pressure away. The Astronomicon burns a little steadier. Chaos still whispers. The Emperor still bleeds. But both timelines, this grim empire of stars and this broken Earth of capes and cameras, keep moving forward, not perfect, not doomed, but in motion. The vision fades. The sky above the roof closes. They are back under real stars and the stubborn, glowing wound of the breach. Everyone breathes again. No one speaks for a long moment. Up to now, they have seen 3 futures. One where this world burns alone. One where it kneels under a new Imperium. And one where it stumbles through a hard middle path. Now comes the choice. Newman breaks the silence first. "If you leave," she says, voice tight, "we're on our own with Vought and whatever the warp throws. We've been barely holding it without demons. Add those and we're toast." "But if he stays free," Mallory says, "we get a golden dictator with 10,000 years of experience at being a golden dictator." "Hey," Butcher says, "at least he's good at his job." "That job is making graveyards," MM says. "You saw his Imperium. That's not a place I'd raise my kid." Huey shudders. "Did you see what happened to us in the first vision?" he asks. Mute in a box. Soup's gone crazy. World cracked. No thanks. Starlight rubs her face. "I hated seeing that second one," she says. "The fake justice one. People cheering as their rights vanish. I've been in that kind of church before. Never again." Homelander says nothing. He is still pale. He saw himself kneel in 2 of those futures. In one, to no one. In one, to the Emperor. In the middle path, he was lashed by an invisible leash whenever he tried to run. None of those felt good. Mute stares at his hands. In the first one, he says quietly, I was back in a box. In the second, I was a knife. In the third, I was tired. But I was not alone. He looks at the Emperor. I'm not going back in a box, he says. So that's my vote. Newman looks at the Emperor. I'm not getting a say in your path, am I? She asks. You're going to pick what you pick, and we'll deal with it. Yes, the Emperor says. She nods. Then at least say it out loud, she says, so the world hears. So when you break it, we can tell you. He turns his face up toward the breach. His eyes shine. Mankind must endure whatever the cost, he says softly. That has always been my rule. I've paid those costs alone. That has made me cruel as well as strong. He looks at them all. At last, I have seen that when I pay the cost alone, I also choose the bill alone, he says. That is how empires become cages. He takes a slow breath. I choose the third path, he says. I will remain here as a sanctioned servant, bound by law, watched by those who are not mine. I will bleed for this world and my own, but I will not own either. Homelander lets out a harsh laugh. You're serious, he says. Yes, the Emperor says. Why? Homelander demands. You saw you could save more if you went back. You saw you could fix more if you ruled this place. Why pick the hard, weak option? The Emperor tilts his head. Because I am tired of making choices for everyone and calling it mercy, he says. Because if I leave, your world dies screaming. If I rule alone, my flaw wins. In this middle road, my pride is checked, my power is shared, and both timelines have a chance instead of a script. He steps toward Homelander. His eyes are calm. You asked once who asked me to save you, he says. Now you have seen your world without me and under me. Do you ask me to stay, or do you tell me to go? Homelander's jaw tightens. He remembers the first vision, a world screaming in chaos, with no one big enough to hold it back, just him, trying and failing. He remembers the second vision, a world kneeling to banners with his own face on them, but without joy, only fear. He remembers being a boy in a lab, alone. Behind all his pride, he's still scared of being alone. He looks away. Stay, he mutters. Louder, for the cameras that he knows are watching somewhere, he says, Fine, we'll do it your way, for now. Butcher snorts. That's as close to please as you'll get, he says. Newman nods slowly. Then we have our mandate, she says. And now we need rules. They meet the next day in a big hall that used to host Vaught's shareholder meetings. The giant V logo still hangs on the wall, but someone has draped a tarp over it. For now. Long tables fill the room. Microphones line the edges. Cameras are present, but fewer. This is half hearing, half war council. On one side sit government figures, Newman, a few senators, some foreign leaders on screens. On the other side, Mallory, the boys, Starlight, a couple of survivor advocates. Near the front sits Ashley, representing what is left of Vaught's legal face. The Emperor stands at a simple podium. Homelander sits to his right, arms folded. Mute sits to his left, a sister beside him, both just inside a circle on the floor that marks the safe range for electronics. Behind them, projected on a screen, a new symbol waits, half-designed, a double-headed eagle drawn thin and sharp, perched above a simple circle with 8 stars around it, 1 for each continent and 1 for the breach. The tarp over the V looks small now. This is a matter of law, Newman says, gavel in hand. Not theology. We are here to write the rules for the most powerful being on our planet and the system around him. She looks at the Emperor. You said you wanted chains, she says. We are going to make them. He nods. I will help, he says. They start simple. Rule 1. The Emperor's Shard may use full warp power, city shields, mind blasts, reality shaping. Only when a non-human entity from the warp crosses the breach or takes control of a soup. In those moments, he may act without waiting for human permission. Rule 2. In all other crises, terrorism, soup crime, wars between nations, the Emperor must defer to human law. He can advise. He can negotiate. He cannot move mountains just because a missile is launched. Rule 3. The Joint Council must approve any lethal action he takes against a soup who is not clearly warp-touched. If the Council is split, he must use minimum force to disable, not kill, unless more lives are at immediate risk. Rule 4. The Emperor's Shard will not create new churches or demand worship. Any cults that arise must be treated under normal law. No state religion may form around him. Rule 5. The breach and all anchor personnel, mute, the sisters, any blanks, are under shared authority. No one nation or company can control them. Any attempt to kidnap, weaponize, or experiment on them is an attack on all, punishable by the Emperor's direct intervention. Rule 6. Every year, there will be a public audit. The Council will present a report on all times the Emperor acted, what it cost, and whether he followed the rules. He must answer questions on record. He must listen to citizen statements. They argue over every line. Butcher wants more killing power. Some soups are too bloody dangerous to leave breathing, he says. You slow walk a vote, people die. Mother's Milk demands stronger checks. We just saw what he does when no one checks him, he says. We're not handing him a blank check just because he promises to be nice this time. Newman fights for flexibility. Law needs room for edge cases, she says. We can't write everything now. Mallory pushes for transparency. No more black sites, she says. If we have to hold someone up because they're too dangerous, everyone in this room needs to know where, why, and how long. Homelander complains every time his name comes up. I don't need a leash, he says. You have one, the Emperor says calmly. Better to shape it into a collar you can live with than pretend it is not there. Starlight pushes for civilians. We need seats on the council for normal people, she says. Not just spooks and politicians. Folks from the neighborhoods that get trampled when soups fight. Ashley mostly tries not to cry. Every time someone says Vought, 10 lawyers in her head scream. In the end, they have a charter. It is not perfect, but it is real. The Emperor steps back from the podium. Do you accept these limits? Newman asks. He bows his head. Yes, he says. On record, she says. Yes, he repeats. Homelander scowls. And you? Newman asks him. Do you accept your role as Sword of the Breach under this charter? He wants to shout no. He wants to melt the cameras and tear the room apart. He remembers the first vision. He remembers the second. He grinds his teeth. Yes, he says. On record. Mute shrugs when they look at him. You're going to make me do my job either way, he says. Might as well have rules. The sister beside him signs something quick and sharp. The Emperor smiles faintly. She says, he translates, Welcome to the Order, Anchor. The day after the charter is signed, it is tested. Of course, it happens in a city far from New York, a Midwestern town where Vought once did a quiet trial of Compound 5 in the water supply. Most of the kids there grew up normal. A few got powers as teens. One boy never showed anything, until now. At a summer fair, he starts to float. People laugh, clap, film it. The boy panics. The warp around him boils. Without meaning to, he opens a tiny hole in the air above the Ferris wheel. 2 demons push through. They are small, like warp dogs made of smoke and teeth. Still, they are demons, The breach on Vought Tower rings like a bell. On the roof, the Emperor feels it. His eyes snap up. "This is it," Mallory says, checking her phone as alerts pour in. Little town called Ridge Falls. 2 unknown entities. People screaming. Vought denies any knowledge, which means they did it. Newman looks at the Emperor. "This is warp," she says. "You can go." He nods. He looks at Homelander. "Sword," he says. "With me." Homelander glares. He hears a faint echo of the throne in the back of his mind, like a warning hand on his shoulder. If he refuses, it will hurt. "Fine," he growls. Mute shifts. "I go too?" he asks. "Yes," the Emperor says. "Your field will keep the rip from spreading." The sister at his side nods. Kimiko and Frenchie check their gear. "We coming?" Butcher asks. Mallory shakes her head. "This one is clean warp," she says. "Let's see if our golden boy and his angry flag can play by their own rules." Ridge Falls is chaos. People run between booths, knocked over in the grass. The Ferris wheel hangs at an angle, one support bent by a stray blast. The 2 demon dogs leap from stand to stand, biting at anything alive. Where they touch, flesh burns wrong. A man swings a bat at one. It goes through like smoke. The demon bites his arm. He screams as black veins spread up to his neck. His eyes roll white. A little girl stands frozen nearby, cotton candy in hand, staring as the thing turns toward her. A golden light falls from the sky. The Emperor hits the ground hard, earth cracking under his boots. His sword is in his hand. Homelander drops beside him, cape snapping. Mute lands more slowly, sister helping keep his field focused. People stare. They have seen Homelander on TV. Many have seen the Emperor. Seeing both in their town is like watching 2 movies crash into each other. "Get people back," the Emperor calls to the few cops on scene. "Now!" He turns to the demons. His warp sense wakes, sharp and bright. He feels their hunger like hot knives. He also feels the strain as he touches the power he now rationed. This is a cost. He pays. Golden light flares from his free hand. It wraps around one demon like chains. It howls as the light burns the warp stuff that makes its body. It squirms, but Mute steps closer, field tight. Where his null touches the demon, its smoke body shrinks. The Emperor yanks. He tears it apart. The shredded pieces fly not down, but up, sucked back toward the little hole in the sky. He seals that one with a stitch of will. One left. Homelander moves. His eyes blaze. His beams cut into the second daemon. This time, they hurt it. The thing screams, body half melting, half evaporating. It lunges straight at him, snapping. He could dodge. He doesn't. He remembers the charter. In warp fights, he is supposed to be a shield. For once, he leans in instead of away. The demon hits his chest. Its teeth sink in. For a moment, Homelander feels something trying to take him, to drink his rage, to push into his head. The echo of the throne lashes him, not as punishment, but as a warning jolt. He growls and blasts his beam straight down, burning through his own suit, through the demon, into the ground. The demon bursts. Ash and smoke blow away on the wind. The tiny hole above the fair flickers. The Emperor raises his sword and traces a tight circle in the air, then across through it. Golden lines hang for a moment, then sink into the hole, sealing it. He staggers. His knees almost buckle. Mute's field wraps around him, keeping the worst warp backlash away. The Sister of Silence lays a hand on his armor. Her blank calm gives him a thin anchor. It is done. A few seconds have passed. To the people of Ridge Falls, it felt like a slow, strange eternity. Up to now, the Emperor has saved worlds and killed gods in places far away. This is the first time he has done it under a charter, with human eyes fixed on his every move. The cameras caught everything. Newman plays the footage that night in the council hall. No edits. They show the demons. They show the Emperor's light. They show Homelander taking a bite on his chest instead of letting the thing go past him into the crowd. They show Mute flaring his field at just the right moment. No buildings are flattened. No bystanders are collateral damage. The man who was bitten lives. His arm is black up to the elbow, but the sister cuts it clean, and the Emperor burns the infection from his blood. The man wakes later in a hospital bed, alive. In the hall, Newman sets down the remote. "This," she says, "is how it's supposed to look. This is what we bought with those rules." Butcher snorts. "Don't get cozy," he says. "Give them time. They'll find ways to break it." "Maybe," MM says. "But today was a win." Starlight smiles, small but real. Outside, people in Ridge Falls light candles. Some for the Emperor, some for Homelander, some just for the fact that the monsters died and they didn't. One little girl draws a picture. It shows a big golden man, a man in a cape, and a third figure with no face standing under a patch on the sky. Above them, she draws a double-headed eagle and a circle of stars, all fused into one shape. Weeks pass. The new symbol appears in more places. On the fence around the breach, replacing the old V. On patches worn by the joint teams that watch over anchor operations. On a small badge Starlight wears on the inside of her jacket, where only she can see it. The Emperor's own armor changes, no longer just the old Aquila. A new emblem is etched onto his chest plate. The double-headed eagle spreading its wings over a ring of 9 stars. 8 for this Earth's peoples, 1 for the distant Imperium. The American eagle shape is there too, in the lines of the wings. A nod to the world he walks now. He does not call it a holy symbol. Others do. The purge comes quietly. A line of black vans rolls up to a remote vault facility in the desert, one that somehow stayed off everyone's books. Men in lab coats look up from their work as alarms blare. The Emperor walks down the main hall, boots echoing. Homelander flanks him. Behind them, Mallory's team moves in. Sisters of Silence stand at some doors, keeping any psychic tricks from escaping. Cameras are off, except for the Council's black box recorders. They find kids in tubes. They find vats of Compound V mixed with strange new reagents pulled from stolen warp touch samples. They find a half-formed thing in a tank that looks like a soup and a demon mixed together. Ashley is not here. She claims she did not know about this place. The Emperor believes her. It does not matter. He turns to the council members present. "This is a gate waiting to be opened," he says. Newman nods. "Close it," she says. He does. With care. He uses fire but in thin lines, burning machines instead of people. He lifts the tube kids out with gentle telekinesis and lowers them into the arms of medics. He draws the warp stuff out of the half-formed thing like poison, then burns that on a separate plane of light. He feels every act in his bones. He feels terror dim a little. He feels the Astronomicon flutter. He takes the pain. Homelander watches. He expected a showy blast. He got a surgeon. It somehow bothers him more. When it is over, the lab is ash. The kids are on stretchers heading to real hospitals. The data drives are in Mallory's bag. Vaught's last big secret is smoke. Butcher lights a cigarette outside, shielding the flame from the wind. "Well," he says, "that's one less nightmare in the world." "Until the next one," Mallory says. "Until the next one," he agrees. Time moves. The Emperor learns the slow work of being a sanctioned servant. He sits in hearings and answers hard questions. He walks through bad neighborhoods with only a few guards, listening. He stops small crimes with small acts. A wall moved here, a gun bent there. He leaves big changes to human hands. He spends long hours on the roof with Mute and the sisters, hands lifted, holding the breach's edge like a man holding a heavy door shut. Each time he draws power, he feels a little more of his soul go thin. He keeps doing it. He also makes one request of the council. Once a year, he says, I want you to show me my worst. Newman blinks. Your worst? She asks. Yes, he says. My failures here. The people I could not save. The times I overstepped. The harm my presence caused. Show me all of it in one hall with their faces and names. Butcher smiles. Oh, I can help. With that, he says. Starlight nods. So can I, she says. They schedule it. It becomes part of the audit. The Emperor stands each year and listens as families talk about side effects, accidents, fear. He does not defend himself much. He explains where he must. He apologizes when he can. He learns. It is not enough to erase his sins. It is enough to keep him from forgetting them. Homelander changes too. Not into a saint. Of course not. He still loves cameras. He still loves cheers. He still has a darkness in him that will never fully go away. But sometimes, late at night, he stands on a roof watching the breach glow and feels the faint tug of the throne in his skull, like a chain on a dog that is doing its best not to lunge. In one timeline, he would have knelt to chaos. In another, he would have knelt to the Emperor. Here, he walks a shaky line between pride and duty, because every time a warp thing claws at the edges of his world, his chest burns and his powers crackle until he flies to meet it. He hates that lack of choice. He also, in a quiet part of himself, values the days where his violence is pointed at something that truly deserves it. Mute becomes a fixture. People call him the quiet man on news shows. Kids draw him as a simple outline with no face, standing under a patch of clear blue sky. He appears in the background of many big fights, never the focus, always the edge that keeps reality from fraying. He has friends now. Kimiko sits with him during shifts, both of them silent and comfortable. The Sister of Silence assigned as his mentor teaches him hand signs, jokes with quick fingers. Frenchie brings him strange snacks from every corner of the city. He still hears the big quiet sometimes, the offer to erase everything. He has a new response. Not yet, he tells it. I'm busy. Butcher keeps a kill switch in his pocket, a small device no one but Frenchie and MM know about. A mix of stolen warp tech, Mute's field on a chip, and explosives. If Goldie goes full God King again, he says, or if Homelander slips the leash for good, we push this. Maybe it kills us. Maybe it kills them. Either way, the game resets. MM shakes his head. You really can't help yourself, he says. Butcher smiles without humor. Someone has to stand ready to end the story, he says. That's the real balance. He does not tell the Emperor about it. The Emperor suspects it exists anyway. He lets it be, knowing that someone, somewhere, has a way to try to kill him is part of the chain he asked for. On Terra, the Astronomicon burns. In a quiet chamber deep in the Imperial Palace, an Inquisitor of the Order Malleus reads a new scroll. It is an edict, not from the High Lords, from the throne itself. It registers a shard of the Emperor as sanctioned asset primus of a divergent human timeline. It records the risk and the potential. It outlines that the shard is bound by alien law and shared duty. The Inquisitor frowns. Heretical, he says. Necessary, a nearby custodian replies. The line between those two is thin, the Inquisitor says. The custodian nods. It always has been, he says. They file the edict away in a vault labelled Soul Shadow. Future wars may depend on what is written there. In the warp, the Chaos Gods watch. Khorne snarls at every demon pulled apart over Ridge Falls, over the desert lab, over a dozen other places. Tzeentch smiles as the charter leads to new, complex systems full of chances to twist. Slaanesh shivers at the new kinds of worship and pain mixed together when people fear and admire the Emperor's shard without being forced. Nurgle chuckles as small corruptions still grow in the cracks. None of them get what they wanted. Not fully. That is enough to make them angry. It is also enough to keep the game interesting. On a street in New York, the girl in the red hoodie from the first day walks home from school. She passes a mural. It shows the Emperor, Homelander, Starlight, Mute, and a row of normal people standing together under the new symbol. The eagle and the stars, fused and painted in simple lines. Someone has spray painted over Homelander's face with a clown nose. Someone else has scribbled a halo on Butcher, badly. The girl laughs. Her little brother tugs her sleeve. "Do you think they're good guys?" he asks. She thinks about it. She remembers glass falling from Vought Tower. She remembers the Emperor catching a building. She remembers Project Quire's scream in her head. She remembers seeing Homelander on TV later, face serious, when the Ridge Falls footage aired. "I think," she says slowly, "they're people with too much power trying not to mess up. Some do better than others." Her brother frowns. "That's not what heroes are," he says. "Heroes are perfect." She smiles. "No," she says. "Heroes are the ones who keep trying even when they're not." They walk under the mural. High above them, the breach glows. On the roof, the Emperor stands with Mute and the sister, hands raised, holding the border between this broken earth and his own broken Imperium. He is not a savior alone in the dark anymore. He is on a leash he helped forge. He is tired. He is at work,